All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Morales. Taking a quick look at next week, just a very brief one since we're going into an off week in between. And then we'll be doing a little bit of an audience Q&A so y'all can ask us some questions, give you some answers right here on the show. And of course, to do all of that with me, as always, the Ohio player, my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, and a man who knows more about what's going on at Karate Combat than the people in the Karate Combat Discord, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
You know, I am obviously living another good week. We had some fights on Saturday. It is now Monday, and I am fucking ready to talk about it. I'll tell you about that.
That's right. We had a pretty solid Apex card. This was another little card that could, I thought. A lot of decent performances on here, a couple of good knockouts, a couple of submissions. Really had a little bit of everything. So, of course, we're going to get into all of that. Of course, if you are new to the show, we're going to be going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Morales. If you got something that you want to talk about that's not pertaining to the fight that we're talking about at the time, save it for afterwards, because we're going to have a whole bunch of time to chat with you guys, answer questions, and just kind of talk it up, chat it up a little bit today. So a little free and easy episode of the show today. So let's start this thing off by saying this was UFC Fight Night. Burns versus Morales took place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. What did you think of this event overall, Chase?
So going into, there's actually a couple different points of view. So going into it, initial reaction was like, all right, here we go. We got another Apex card. Look at the names, write it off. This is a night to get drunk kind of deal. Afterwards, this is one of the better Apex cards that we've seen, probably, I would say in a long time, but also of all time, considering the timeline that it's been around. But I would also want to say, compare it to something like the Apex 100 that we saw just not a while ago. And these were also fights that unfortunately will be forgotten, is what I will say initially, because I didn't forget them, but talking about Apex 100, nobody even talks about that card. Like, you can't even tell me that people have any relevant memory of anything that happened right there. And it sucks that we get cards like these that are so damn good at the Apex that people are just never going to talk about, which sucks.
Well, I gotta hope that some of the individual fighters' performances are what's going to stand out in people's minds, because there's definitely one that we'll get to that for me is going to be like the defining performance. You have multiples, of
Chat,
course.
come on, one
In particular for me. Yeah, no, there were definitely multiples, but like one in particular, because it was a person that, like, coming into it, I remember last week we were going over it, and we were saying, the specific fighter that I'm thinking of, it's like, who are these guys kind of thing a little bit. And it's like, this is now a defining performance that I always am going to go back to. So, like, hopefully that happens for a couple of the fighters as opposed to the fights themselves, if it's not going to be something that gets heralded in the sands of history kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but damn, it was a damn good card. So that's what's a shame, because I'm telling you, like, this one, people are just they'll rant and rave a bit like, why couldn't we have seen this in front of a crowd type deal? And then they'll post the clip. But other than that, they're not going to be talking about anything that happened with Mr. Hyung Sung Park or Denise Gomez, anything like that. So I just think it's a shame.
Gabe
Yeah,
Green.
hey, okay.
Of course,
we'll get into it.
Yeah, we're gonna get into all of it, of course. But yeah, no, solid card, and this is definitely a prime example of why these cards matter, in my opinion. Like, these are the cards here that show you and inform you about fighters that are not on the big cards, are not on the pay-per-views yet. It's what they were even talking about it on the commentary of this event, saying that, like, a lot of these guys are trying to fight their way into the spotlight, with performances like this. So you got a lot of delivery in that mentality and in that goal and effort with these guys. Some people put on like serious banger fights, banger performances. These are the performances that will propel them forward into the larger fights and larger shows. So you never miss these, because this is where it all starts. And you get a better understanding of what you're going to get on the bigger cards by paying attention and making sure that you never miss these Apex cards.
Yeah, this one was good. I'm actually just really excited to talk about it.
Yeah, well, let's do just that. Starting things off over here with Tisha.
Oh, actually, no, there
Whoa,
wasn't.
whoa, whoa.
There one more. Yeah, what? I don't know.
What happened?
There was one last thought that I wanted to say. That kind of just threw me off. Now I even forgot a second time. So let's go forward. Jesus, I don't even know what just happened. That's crazy. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you think of it, you can jump in. But Tisha
The
Pennington. Yes.
momentum. This is maybe proof that momentum can carry a card. Not the momentum itself, but it's like when somebody sees a finish, the next guy's like, all right, I got to get one better than the girl, and then the next guy's like, okay, the flyweight's gonna do it. Like, okay, I can go ahead, kind of deal. I felt that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I mean, to that point, I thought that they handled the pacing pretty well, all things considered, too. I mean, there was a lot of times where it was some extended periods because of the amount of finishes and stuff. But I mean, with that being said, and also, we'll talk about the co-main event, of course, being canceled on this card. That's something I guess we can kind of touch on just in general, because it is a point of note for this card that we did have a fight drop out a mere hours before, not even really. It feels like it was only like maybe an hour before it was supposed to take place. So all of that considered.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, this is a great time to bring it up, because it would have been nice to know at the beginning of the card that this was not going to happen. So we'll do the audience a favor and let you guys know now. The co-main event did not happen. So and what the reasoning was.
Sure.
Going right into it, because it's actually really funny.
What?
Bellotto, I mean, is it funny? Okay, yeah, sorry. Maybe is it?
Rodolfo Bellotto versus Paul Craig was the co-main event, and that was canceled.
Yes. And Bellotto the following day posted on Instagram, saying the injury was regarding a herpes flare-up. I know that is kind of interesting to hear, especially in this sport. Now, I would also like to think maybe he's just being funny. I don't know. Maybe he's got a good sense of humor. But
no, man. No.
Okay, you think this is actually true?
I definitely think it's true, and I'll tell you why. Herpes is a legitimate concern in this sport. I mean, you're talking about.
I mean, yes, I agree with the concern. I'm not saying that's no, like people can't compete with herpes. Yes, 100%. That's what I think. But it's the fact that he actually that just seems like a joke. Like, haha, maybe I got herpes, guys. Haha, maybe, I don't know. That's the way that I would maybe take it.
I mean, you watched the last season of The Ultimate Fighter, did you not? We saw a fighter on there who was canceled out for a match because of a flare-up.
Oh, okay. So you think it was an actual cold sore type deal?
I mean, something like that, or along those lines.
I don't know. I'm thinking bro's got some full-blown things going on here. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could take this. I think it was also very vague. So do we really know? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the issue is the way that Bellotto publicized it to the world. Is that it's like, hey, yeah, man, I've never had herpes take me out of a fight before, and it's like, well, what? Okay, let's back up and give me a little bit more detail here, because that's a wild way to present it.
You got to also remember that there's an extra layer. A translation has to be done here. So, sure. And it was probably through text, and that also sometimes doesn't translate over. But interesting enough, yes, that is the case. I don't know, man. That's crazy to me. Just that went down, almost went down. The fact that he walked into the building was actually, like, when people, even Toby specifically, he was mad that he got to watch the video of Bellotto walking in earlier, and then that he didn't get to. He's like, I just saw that motherfucker walk in. Like,
yeah, no, it's a good point. But what I say about this, said it on the watch along, and I think it's a good point, is that you'd rather have, like, so for anybody who is betting on this fight, you would rather have this scenario than the fight actually happening, because if you were betting on Bellotto and he went into the fight and was not able to compete at the level that you were hoping he was going to be able to compete at and not get the win, then trust you would rather have the no action on the bet than taking the bet and it being, the outcome that you'd be looking at then. So from a bettor's perspective, this was definitely the ideal outcome if there was a problem. From a fan perspective, obviously you wanted to see the fight, but just be happy that you saved yourself a couple of bucks just in case, because your one leg of your parlay could have easily busted out had he gone into a fight that he was not 100% for.
Yeah, and so I did want to bring that up early because I would like to go into this card thinking that the co-main event was what we actually saw, and I think that actually leads to a pretty decent lot of fights that we get here. And I'm telling you, like, on paper you don't believe it, but this is why you watch the fucking cards like this, because it will leave you in awe. The people that you never would thought would do anything, they will tell you they're harmless. They will tell you they can't finish their damn lunch and anything of that sort, but they do it and they will surprise you.
Well, that's right. So, we're talking about the momentum of the event. Let's get the momentum
Finally
of
get
this
into it.
podcast back in here. Let's talk about the first fight of the night. Tisha Pennington, Luana Pinheiro. What did you think of this scrap between these two ladies, sir?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you started it by saying it was a scrap. Let me
Mm-hmm.
say, this one was a pretty damn good fight. As the fight was happening, fight of the night for sure. I mean, you can't contest that. So they were doing their damn job out there, swinging, and I did think this was going to go to decision, unfortunately. But in the moment, I actually want to say this was a lot closer than I think people realize. They were going back and forth, but I think securing one round for Luana is probably the right call. But I think even 1 and 3 were close enough that it could have been something interesting here. So the fact that people were really like high on Tisha Pennington, I knew a lot of people that were telling me she's a lock. I mean, she did win, but for the fact you were that confident out of a fight that was really really close, the striking numbers are definitely not telling the story here. It was really close in my opinion.
No, I agree completely. I thought that this was a really nice fight to start this thing off. Both these women were throwing for most of the fight, really active on both sides. I think that the only big difference maker between the two of them, because if you took this factor out, I thought it was pretty much almost even across the board. Like you'd have to really be going with the clicker, like we talk about, to
Right.
give an advantage. But the real difference maker was Tisha's kicks. I think that those were the things that kind of set her apart, which is crazy considering how tiny she is. She's the tiny tornado. And against Pinheiro, you could definitely see the size difference, but she was consistently throwing some really impressive kicks. And Luana keeping distance, you'd think would have been a bigger advantage as the taller fighter, but Tisha was managing the range really, really well. So with all of those as the factors, in the moment, I personally had Pinheiro winning it. Granted, on the watch along, we were just starting. So it was like, I was kind of, we're talking to the chat, we were just getting into the flow of the evening. So I wasn't like as locked in as sometimes I am, but like in the moment, I was like, oh man, it's kind of crazy that they gave it to Pennington, but overall, that just shows you how close the fight was in the grand scheme of things.
I'm telling you, I kind of think Panera won too. That's funny you say it. I mean, at the time I'm rooting for the boys. I want their picks to win, but like, I don't know here. Did the judges also want the boys to win or what? Because I kind of thought it wasn't horribly one-sided to either one of them. I mean, it was damn near splitting hairs, but in my opinion, from what I was watching, I agree. I thought Panera was doing it. But
Yeah, it was a close fight, as we said. 2-1 Torres is fine by me. Like, it definitely wasn't one where I'm like, oh my God, robbery of the century or anything like that. Pinheiro did have a couple of really nice trips in the third, but like, if that wasn't enough to swing it, again, I'm not going to be like, man, that's so crazy they didn't go that way.
she tripped her like 4 times, like
It's
four or
true,
five
yeah.
times.
Yeah, and that was really like where it was like starting to swing, but it was just too late at that point. And the trading was just pretty consistent. But that's the problem too in fights like this, when it's like really even. Like there has to be somebody that pulls ahead in a definitive way, and if not, then you end up with a situation like this.
You know what I find fascinating is like, in my opinion, yeah, the takedowns, you're still saying, she didn't pull ahead. It's like judo is a form of martial art too. She flipped her like or like tripped her or whatever you want to say.
It was all in
However,
one round, though.
hey, that was a round that she could have won. In my opinion, she won round 2. I think that's the one that got her on the scorecards. So
Is that what it was? Because
I
that's
think they
crazy to
gave,
me.
I think they gave Pennington 1 and 3, but I could be wrong.
That's wild because yeah, that should have been round 3 that would have went to Pinheiro in that case because that's when she was really doing the most work with the trips. But
But that's why I thought it was close, is because like I'm the judges, I'm like, oh yeah, she for sure won round two. It's like 1-1 kind of, and then the third round, I was like, oh, she got all them trips. Like no way she's not gonna win this. And then the judges gave. I'm like, oh, that's kind of. I mean, we'll go into some sketchy. I think the judging is maybe one downfall you can give to this card if I'm viewing it, because right here again, I think Luana probably on a 3-0 fight, like fight skid, like she's a lot better than she shows. She probably could have took this win, like whatever.
yeah, and that is unfortunate for her. Like this is a performance that like it should have won against a different opponent. So like being on a losing streak now and that being one of them, that's really like an unfortunate look for her because it's not like she's getting finished. It's not like she's out here, you know, like slouching through some of these fights or having really bad off nights. It's just good, consistent performances that she happens to be on the losing side of. So that does suck for Pinheiro.
And Pennington did take 1 and 3. Beeb can confirm. So I
Beeb
would just like to
confirmed.
say,
Well, shout out to Beeb. Shout out to everybody in the chat, by the way. Appreciate you, Beeb, Money J, David Burns checking in. Shout out to Didgery Dave, Rick Allen, and John Dong. TJF, I saw you earlier, my man.
and TJF actually shouted out Bloomis. We didn't even give him a shout out because I didn't even see his comment. Shout out the man, the myth, Bloomis.
That's right. Shout out to Bloomis always. But yeah, so I mean, this was either way, you know, a decision aside, I thought that this was a really nice way to start this card off, like especially because
Surprisingly.
that and also one of 3 women's fights on the card. So obviously you want to have good fights for that because the haters out there would have been jumping on this from the second that it started had this not been a great performance on either side and not been an entertaining fight. So this was a good card for the ladies, and this was a good one to start things off.
For the ladies.
That's right, ladies. Very good shit. So, all right, well, let's move on down to Hyun-Sung Park versus Carlos Hernandez. This Park guy showing out in a big way. Talk about changing the perception of Road to UFC, guys.
I mean, I don't know if he did all that because I didn't come away thinking that initially. I just came out thinking like, man, Carlos Hernandez really sucks. Like, what the heck? Like, holy shit. Like, Hyun-Sung Park is really good. He's really fucking fast, really good in the grappling. Obviously, will go for a fucking finish. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I just got to see him against better competition. I would love to see it because he is somebody that I could see against a good competitor putting up a good fight. I just want to see that. Like, you know, smoking Carlos Hernandez, like, all right, get him out of here. Get him out. Like,
yeah, I could see that. I guess what I mean by changing the perception is that we're starting now to see in select instances some of these Road to UFC guys have some legitimate success in places, I would say. What? No, I mean, you're not agreeing with
yes.
this?
I mean, I agree, but when I think of like the road to the UFC guys, I'm thinking of more smaller nations kind of deal, like with like Jeka Sirige kind of deal, like Indonesia,
Yeah.
Korea. I mean, they've gotten proven athletes already, like before, kind of deal.
That's a fine point to it, but I'm talking about the tournament itself because we've had plenty of times where we've been seeing guys either winners or not winners. I mean, I think there's been a couple of times where like runners up have also made it into the organization, and we've just
Xiao Long,
oh yeah, was he
not Xiao Long, Xiao Li, Zhang Li, whatever the dude last week. I fuck it, the Vietnam guy. I forget. He lost.
Oh
But,
yeah,
and then he came back and got the finish.
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
Sorry.
So you know, so we're seeing like people who are either winners or not coming into the organization proper and having mixed results at best, and often like losing efforts. And it's been like kind of one of those things where like we want the representation for these countries. Of course, we you know it's an international sport. International representation is important, but at the same time, if these fighters are not actually out there doing the thing to get the win, then it almost becomes one of those situations where you're kind of like, this is all well and good, but like we need like legitimate talent out of this thing. Like this is not doing the job that it's supposed to be doing. So it's nice to see a couple of these guys go out and win in emphatic fashion and be like, okay, there is some legitimacy here.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And actually, as I was butchering the names, it was Zhao Long and Kwang Lee. You know, those were the two names I was mashing together. But those are two guys that I would also agree are proving your point here, that there are talents coming out of here that want to show that they are here to stay. They come out and get finishes. 2 submissions back to back by Road to the UFC guys, by the way, with that. Actually, but either way, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
well, and then also Rongju is another road to UFC guy who is definitely a talent to keep an eye out for and remember. So
and
yeah,
Shu Jabli is somebody to keep an eye out for, guys. Come on.
you're going to remember him one way or another. So, but maybe not for the right reasons. Either way, though, that's all of them. How about Hyun Sung Park himself? Park did a great job in this fight, I thought, aside from all of the things in the finishing sequence. Going into it, though, starting this thing out, he did a really good job of cutting off the circling of Hernandez. He was walking him down, got him backed up to the cage before even trying to tie him up. Then he gets him tied up, gets him to the ground, finishing the job after that. I mean, it really was a bang, bang, bang kind of thing. So I can definitely like understand your perception of it being like, yeah, this Hernandez guy. Ugh. And it also hurt my feelings a little bit after seeing his performance, hearing that like he spent all this time being a coach and he's, training the next generation of fighters. I'm like, oh, maybe we need somebody else training the next generation of fighters. I
Yeah,
hate to
what do
say
you
it.
think the camp thinks? Like, they're like, all right, this is the guy that's been training us for the last year. He's got a big fight coming up, and he gets smoked in a minute. I wonder if you do
Ugh,
question? I mean, good, you're around a higher level talent. He's obviously better than a lot of people
of
in the
course.
sport, but like, I, I wonder if a couple people left. I'm just curious.
I gotta believe that the people that know and train with him are, are good, loyal homies. that's
Yeah,
that's what I'm.
true. I mean,
That's what I'm gonna hope.
they're not gonna go to another camp. I'm obviously bullshitting. I mean, they got a home there. They're gonna obviously ride for the guy.
Yeah,
But I'm just being joshing around,
they're not
guys.
they're not pulling the red one from the cage, going over
Right,
and
right.
saying, Carlos Hernandez, you've done everything for me that you can. You're being lapped, but well,
Exactly.
who knows? Either way, the ending sequence in this fight was really nice for Park. Great fluid motion to get the back on the takedown. Hernandez with no answers on the ground, and I think that was really his biggest fault in all of this. Not obviously not doing much striking wise either. There wasn't much on his side in this fight because it was very quick. All this took place in the first round, but really the biggest problem was when it went to the ground, nothing doing, when he's getting flattened out easily, fairly textbook rear naked choke for Park. Not a great showing for Hernandez, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean that's unfortunately the case. I mean, Carlos Hernandez is just not somebody who I had a lot of high. I mean, the dog number would have led you to believe that there was some hope here, and there was not. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll talk about another dog that screwed everything up for me. I will tell you now, before we even get to that fight, I predicted every fight correctly on this card except for one, and that one fight screwed up everything for me. So this is one of those really, really hurtful cards for me in that respect. Doesn't take away from the quality of the card, just putting it out there as a teaser, I suppose.
okay, yeah, I
Um,
hear you.
anything else on Mr. Park and Hernandez here?
No, sadly, I mean, I wish there was more to say about performances on this card, but we'll get into a lot of them, and
Yeah, I
it's
guess, and one thing to say as a general note about a lot of these fights where the finishes were quick is that it's great to see these fighters at this level getting these finishes because it does make them look better as far as their record goes and gets them the fights that they need. But it's hard to utilize this information effectively considering the factors. Like, I would not necessarily now think that Hyunsung Park is like your lock for the next card that you see him on off of a performance like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to keep everything in perspective as far as like what you're seeing and what information you're taking away from these fights, because this is now going to get Park into a better fight. So there could be a better competition between him and his next opponent. He could do it again. That's not out of the question, of course, but it's the perspective that you have to keep, just knowing that he's able to do these things. Can he do that now against better competition?
I personally would. I'm not going to say that bro shouldn't celebrate, and I'm not going to say that I shouldn't celebrate for him as well. But I'm not just if he's the type of guy that wants to be the top of the sport, I would be doing him a disservice to make a fucking like make this so much more than it is, to make it seem like this is the greatest fucking win of his career. And it was a great win up until now in his career. I mean, obviously he's 10-0, whatever. Every win is going to be the best one, but like he's got more to do and he's got to do it against better people. So I just feel like I gotta put the motor in him. I'm not trying to be like an asshole. I hope he understands. I'm just trying to let him know that, dude, there's going to be better people. So just keep on the grind and keep going. You got this. You're doing
Yeah.
good.
And he seems like the type of guy that knows that he wasn't like out there, you know, show like going crazy or showboating or anything like afterwards. Like
Yeah.
he was fairly composed, I would say. So I think you're going to get that out of Hyun Sung Park here.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to Elise Reed versus Denise Gomes. Dominant performance for Miss Gomes here, and of the first of two, maybe perhaps three, but three good women's fights. This was the first very dominant performance, I would say. What'd you think?
I think this one was pretty funny, but let me maybe break down the fight a little bit because I thought Elise Reed had more of a chance than she ended up having. And at first, I didn't think she looked horrible. She was doing good with the kicks. She was keeping her at range, not letting her get inside with the power strikes. And then unfortunately, she gets caught with a straight and it just pops her goddamn eye, like right underneath her eye. Her eye is swollen and she's on the retreat and she's getting fucked up. And then somehow they get to the ground, I believe. Maybe she took some more strikes. And then they stay on the ground for the entire rest of the first round. And what's funny is Denise Gomes didn't attempt to stand up once. I mean, the commentaries talk about how she wants to prove that she's a well-rounded MMA player, fighter now. Like, she's not just a striker. She's got to show that she's got the grappling. And it's like, dog, after what I see her do in the first 30 seconds of round two, stand up. Just get the fuck up. What are you talking about? Get the fuck up. Do not fucking sit there, because we're in the Apex too. So she's going to listen to that. She's going to hear the fucking commentators glazing her fucking wrestling while she's just laying in fucking side control. And she's not going to get up and knock him out in 30 seconds. Like, yo, just get up and knock him out in 30 seconds. If that's what you can do walking in the second round in 30 seconds, you could have done it in 5 in the first. Like, I'm confused on where the disconnect here. Like,
Exactly. Do what you do best. If that is the method that's going to get you to victory, that mentality that you're outlining right there is why Bilal Muhammad does not have a belt right now.
yeah.
No, I mean, look, I do have it in the notes as well. That like, first round, great for Gomes. Nice elbows in that round. Few hard shots were landed. All that ends up on the ground. Not much doing there. I say if Gomes developed a ground game, she could be really dangerous, but she does not have that now. So it's like, yeah, I agree with you completely. And also, this is, I think, one of the big reasons that I was skeptical going into this fight was because Gomes has had problems getting muscled around in the past. She's takes a couple of losses off of some dumb navigation of fights, like a fight IQ kind of issue, I would say, based on what her primary skill set is. So it's nice to see that, like, yeah, if you're going to go to the ground, I guess at least you can keep control against Elise Reed. I'd be very nervous if it goes to the ground against anybody else, if that's what you're going to do on the ground. But like, it's good to see you get back to your bread and butter and actually win a fight. Then, like, don't go out here like trying to prove things that you can't actually live up to, because you have the skill set that will win the fight. So just do that. Like, it helps you to be well-rounded. Of course, you should be well-rounded, but if you're not yet, or if you're still developing it, or if it's like a minor skill set that you have compared to this much greater one that has been proving to be successful, considering the mouse under Elise Reed's eye going into that second round, then yeah, just why don't we do that?
Dude, yes. I don't know how she didn't finish her in the ground and pound. She didn't attempt any ground and pound. Like, she just let Elise Reed hold on to her, and she was just trying to maneuver different positions, switch to side control, and I'm caught up in, the half guard, whatever the case may be. None of that. Stand up, get back to the feet, tell her, bring that busted eye back up here. No 3 minutes of you resting on the fucking back. You're gonna get back up, and I'm gonna do the combination that I have planned for the fucking second round. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna scratch that. We're going to plan fucking C then. Plan B's coming out now. Like, I don't get what this shit is. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
But it was a good finish. I'm just being an ass. But no, it was great. She actually did. She fucked her up, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, we go back and say it time and time again, but when you see women with knockout power, keep it in mind and remember it, because it's very rare that we're seeing women getting finished on the feet in the UFC. So Denise Gomes, a woman who's actually able to do that, Round two started, and it was all over. Heavy shots right out of the gate. That was, I think, a really solid strategy. You talk about fight IQ. I mean, it was very nice to see that she recognized how much work she had done in that first round and wasn't pussyfooting around saying, okay, let's go for some angles. Let's see if we can do a level change, blah, blah. No, it was just, okay, I screwed her up pretty bad in that first round. I'm going to go and work her over again. Ends up doing that, gets the finish.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a little pity. Like, I don't really want to smash her face in now that I've already busted. Like, what if I pop it with an elbow? Like, I don't know. But a clean knockout is always great. So shout out to her for putting it out on the feet. Love to see this one, especially from the women, because even going into the second, this is expectations, right? After the first round, there wasn't no knockout, there wasn't no finish, and she was wrestling. You're probably thinking, "Oh, brother, we got a doozy coming for us. No wonder it's the third fight of the night, hidden in the card, kind of deal." But no, Denise Gomes, hey, shout out to you.
Yeah, and I give Reed credit because she was advancing throughout the entirety of this fight. She really was walking right into a lot of what Gomes was throwing at her, but that's the
Hands
problem.
down.
Exactly. I was going to say she was literally walking into the fire. I mean, Reed leaves herself so wide open with the low guard. They were saying that it's, because she has a taekwondo base. It's like, if that's the case, then you need to mix in the martial arts significantly in order to adjust to that, because you cannot be walking face first into these shots. I think a lot of times the women are a little bit, maybe this is a generalization, and I acknowledge that may be the case, but I think that sometimes the women are a little bit more they're more confident in walking into shots because there are so few females with knockout power. But it's like, I mean, then you go up against Denise Gomes, who actually does have that ability, and you find out what happens. So, you're fucking around to find out if you keep your guard as low as Elise Reed does.
Yeah, and you're talking about correlations here. I mean, Manon Farrow found out the hard way what happens when you don't fucking put up your fucking card. So,
Bingo.
yeah,
Broken goes the nose. Yeah.
yeah.
So Elise Reed now 8-5, which is, that is a horrible, horrible record. So,
But it
uh,
wasn't a horrible performance. I mean,
no.
she was actually looking pretty decent, got popped up, and then she actually did a decent amount of fighting through that to get to the second round. I think give her another one. Line it back up. Fuck it. Give her Victoria Dudikova. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, women's MMA, this is definitely like a case where that could be a possibility. They keep around a little bit longer sometimes than others, and with a performance like that, even in getting knocked out, at least that she's going to advance. At least that she's going to throw hands. She's not going to be sitting here turtling up and stuff. So yeah, I think that that does make sense. Yeah, Elise Reed can stick around for at least one more.
Hell yeah.
All right. Speaking of ladies, the other ladies fight on this card, and a controversial lady in this fight, Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa.
You want to talk about controversy, brother? There was no controversy in the cage, though. That's all you
Facts.
need to
That's
know.
facts. No, you're
She
right about
came
that.
out here and she did exactly what I figured she was going to do. You can check the verdict for it, guys. Luana Sub was in the fucking book. She's a grappling genius. And she showed it right here because Tayanara Lisbo, everybody's coming out here talking about, oh, she's got some striking. She's going to do this. She's going to do that. Guys, she fucking sucks. I can tell you that right now. Luana Santos dogged her, bitched her out, finished it easy. I mean, nothing too, and it was actually at the last second too on the ticker is what they got. So that was pretty nice. She almost fucking broke her goddamn arm on live TV, and they were gonna show that shit like, woo, not
Oh
live
yeah.
TV, but whatever. So,
Yeah. No, absolutely, it was. No,
actually, prelims. It was my bad.
yeah,
Fuck.
yeah, it was live, and it was right at the very end of round two. So, very impressive indeed. No, this was an extremely solid performance for Santos through and through, because round one was dominant for her as well. So anyway, I mean, like, I do want to at least acknowledge that Luana Santos. There's an entire video on the Yama channel all about Miss Santos and some very bizarre behavior that she has engaged in. I'll leave it at that. Go ahead and check the channel out if you want to see more about what I'm talking about there. But in this performance, you are 100% correct, because yeah, she throughout the entirety of this fight, yet another fight where it felt like one long round with the amount of dominance that she put forth. The takedown in the first was early, not many submission attempts or threats in that effort, but full control throughout the round. So definitely took that one just off of the control alone. Second round was a little bit more of the same. Early takedown for Santos. She kind of spun her wheels for a little bit, trying to figure out and find the exact setup for the submission she was looking for. But when she finally did fish that arm out, the key lock was really slick and well executed. It was like watching her work. This is a good example of like seeing the tiny motions in action in order to get it to the desired outcome. Like if you go back and like, this is one that I wish, like, I know a lot of people don't wish for DC on commentary, but like DC with the Chiron where he could like circle and like draw little lines and stuff, like John Madden style or whatever.
Yeah.
This is one that you could actually do that with. Maybe not DC, but somebody could, because it's like if you look at it and break it down step by step in the sequence, she gets the arm, she's setting it up, she's getting it closer, finally crosses the threshold, gets the tap. Like there's a lot of steps to it. Those small motions we talk about all add up to the finish in this one. Nice performance for Santos.
Yeah, I would say there's a couple key things to note on why this is a different performance than most. One, Luana Santos, very attractive, very, very beautiful woman. Second thing
Weird
is that she is weird. The next thing is that most performances like this, in any other scenario, very boring, very lackluster, nothing going on. Oh, she's laying on her. She's not even throwing strikes. I mean, efficient on the books, 50 for 57 is what they have. But like, honestly, she probably could have thrown no strikes. I could have told you, I couldn't tell you no different. But then she actually finally gets the position, goes for the submission, but we are 1 second away from, at that point, third round where she has to go look for a submission. So, I mean, it is, make or miss type of league. And I just really, Luana Santos made that more exciting than it potentially was about to be if we got one more second.
Yeah, it's a good point. But really, I mean, not too much else to say about this fight. I mean, Santos was just really solid throughout the entire thing of it. She's showing that she is a definite threat when it comes to submissions. I mean, it's another case where can she replicate that against the higher ups in the division? But as of right now, I mean, what's there to be skeptical of at the moment?
Yeah, and that's what's crazy. I mean, the line being this close for somebody who was on a pretty good streak, and then she faced some pretty decent competition, went on short notice, and then lost. Like she fought within a month of her fight, her previous fight, and then lost. And then now she comes into a fight against somebody who hasn't fought in like 2 years, and they want to act like she had a chance. And I mean, again, we were 1 second away from a potential 30-26, but I mean, whatever you want to say. This was a good performance. Luana Santos, give her higher competition. So
absolutely, stop touching your dog's dick.
True.
All right.
And cats, whatever other animals you have in the household. Let's actually set a very clear guideline here. No animals, no touchies.
Yeah. Yes, please, dear God. It shouldn't. It seems like something that's so fundamentally should be understood by any like rational, sane individual, but apparently it bears repeating. So yeah, it's just a general note for anybody out there, and of course for Miss Santos, who otherwise, as you said, is definitely a looker
for sure.
All right, well, moving on to Yadier Del Valle versus Connor Matthews. Yadier Del Valle coming in off of the Contender Series, looked really good on there. I remember on the last episode, I think you said you didn't remember his performance on there. I think you'll probably remember this one now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a good one. He definitely won the fight very emphatically. It was very, very fast. Connor Matthews came in, and I kind of could have told you that he was not going to have a chance. Like, Yadier looked massive. This dude is fucking chiseled by the Cuban gods themselves, I'll tell you. He came in, looked good for the part, got the job done. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, for sure. And they were talking about the size difference, and Matthews saying that, he's got a lot of muscle on him. I'm going to take him into the later rounds, and I'll be able to get him done then. It's like, not really, not when Yadier Del Valle is doing his work, because man, he caught a kick, turns it into a takedown, and then it's just pure muscling to work Matthews into the position that he wanted. Like that, maybe, I mean, look, in a different set of circumstances, maybe Matthews was onto something. Like maybe a dude of that frame fighting at what were they? They were at featherweight. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like a big bulky featherweight. Maybe there's some potential for his line of thinking to be correct if it was a different guy. But if that's the case, you can't let what happened happen. You know what I mean? Like you can't have the catched kick turned into the takedown and then just him using every one of those muscles to flatten him out like a pancake, sink in the choke, and call it an early day at the office kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just like I don't want to say poor game planning. Maybe it was just predictable game planning. You know, Connor Matthews, he's like, okay, I got this big muscly guy. I'm definitely going to kick him in the stomach. On the other end of it, they're like, you're a big muscly guy. He's going to kick you in the stomach. We're going to catch the kick. So I don't know. Whoever, I mean, instinctually, he probably just caught the kid, trip, you know, got him to the ground. That was it. You know, but whatever you want to say, maybe it was in the book somewhere. Shout out to whoever drew that up. This was a great finish.
Yeah, it really was. And yet again, I mean, like it's tough. It's consistently you're going to be hearing this, of course, but like it's hard to say that like now, oh, Yadier Del Valle is next up because it's like he did it on the Contender Series, he did it now here in the organization, yes, but like there are a lot of other people that he's going to have to go through to like really make that point, you know, as like I am that dude. But this is certainly a good way to start that off.
I think there's also a key difference here when we talk about, you know, people who get finishes compared to other people who get wins. I mean, it's also it's the level of comp. I mean, if it's somebody that I truly believe, we will get to it later. And it's actually a little controversial, but if it's somebody that I truly believe is the better fighter, and then you win, it's like, okay, you're making a believer out of me that you're better than the guy that I thought was good. But if it's just somebody, it's like, who the fuck is Connor Matthews, guys? Like, come on. Like, this is the technician next door kind of deal. And then he comes in and smokes him. It's like, okay, well, let's get you against a real fighter now kind of deal. Like, I don't know.
Exactly. So that again, it's the same point from Hyunsung Park as here. It's like these are nice wins. These are impressive wins. These are wins to keep in mind when you're making your predictions on future fights and stuff, but really take the competition into consideration and look at it holistically as opposed to, man, he's coming off a really big knockout. I got to put everything on him, you know?
Yeah. This was, I don't know what the matchmaking right here might have been a little, they might have thrown a little weaker comp to our boy from Cuba. I don't know. You gotta question that sometimes. Like, I know the last matchup, you know, with the two women, it's at least striker versus grappler. In a sense, it's a little styles make matchup. And this one, you have God and just a man, and it's like the dude just does everything better than him and just smokes him real quick. So I don't know. It
Yeah.
didn't feel like there was a matchup here, kind of deal.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, Matthews 7-3 at the time, you know, I mean, like, so it's not like he hadn't been in some fights where he was on the losing end already. Del Valle, of course, 8-0 coming into this fight, now 9-0. It could have been a little bit of a stepping stone. It's very interesting to like see how they decide like who to give those types of fights to and who end up getting like the older, more chiseled veteran types of guys that they like really have to work very hard to get through in order to prove themselves. It's, you know, the matchmaking is a little all over the place depending on like where these guys are coming into the organization off of the Contender Series. So this may be a little bit of a layup for him, but if it was, then at least he laid up and got the points, you know?
True. True that.
Yeah. So Yadier Del Valle, definitely a name to remember. And keep in mind also, people, not the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is the Cuban problem. So slightly less than a crisis, but still a big problem.
Gotcha. Yes.
We already have
very big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, we already have a Cuban Missile Crisis in Julian Marquez. This is a problem from Cuba. Remember that.
Yes, I hear you.
All right. Jared Gordon, Thiago Moises. I've always been a Jared Gordon fan, so this was really nice to see. I was interested to hear your thoughts about this because I feel the haterism in you, Chase, when it comes to Jared Gordon. So what do you got?
It's actually quite interesting because the entire week I'm sitting here saying, if people arguably say he beat Patty, then he should win this fight. Yeah. Like, yeah. And, you know, I was looking around and a lot of people were like, well, I kind of had it Patty kind of deal. And I was like, okay, well, if he didn't arguably beat Patty, because I wasn't here for that. I didn't watch that live. I may have watched it a time or two, you know, and rewatch, but I wasn't there for the moment, you know.
Sure.
I don't know. Going into this one, I can firmly tell you that Thiago Moises is somebody that has always stuck out to me as the inconsistent one of them all. Because in the fight, there's been fights, and actually, to make a point, there's been fights where he has won and he has not looked great, in my opinion. There have been fights where he has went to war and he has looked damn good. And I took that as, okay, he just needs to, you know, he needs to get into the mode and then he's ready to go. And then he's locked in and he's going to, you know, he's ready to fight. But when you have a fight like this and you're thinking that there's going to be a war if it needs to take place, and you have one round uh, of fucking action and it's 3 minutes, 2 minutes take place where it's, you know, ground and pound kind of deal. Not ground and pound because Jared Gordon wasn't necessarily getting the strikes off, but Thiago Moises was off his back, throwing some elbows, split open Jared Gordon. That's where I was like, boom, Moises is in the zone. You know, he's on the ground, he's on his back, he's fighting for it here. He split him open, cool. Then we get back to the feet, and then the unthinkable happens where Jared, this dude's nickname is Flash Gordon, and I believe it now because nothing was real about what I just witnessed when he fucking knocked out Thiago Moises clean cold. In rewatch, it maybe was a little early. Like he was conscious after he hit the mat, but he was out cold on the way down. He was definitely knocked out. Jared Gordon with a fucking Hail Mary of a strike. I don't even know how the fuck he's done it still. Thiago Moises is covered in Jared Gordon's blood, falling to the mat lifeless, gets pounded a couple more times. Ref calls it, and all my initial thoughts came true. Like Thiago Moises is just the actual, he's the epitome of inconsistent because nothing matters. Just nothing that he does matters.
Let me make a comparison here. Thiago Moises to me is very similar to what Mike Malott would be if he gets into situations that he doesn't want or anticipates. Like I think that there's a similarity there where it's like Thiago Moises is a dude who thrives in a fight that he is dictating and is able to anticipate what's coming his way. If there are things that happen in the fight that he is not expecting, then he cannot readjust quick enough to anticipate and get the next set of motions in action. And I think that Mike Malott has similar tendencies. Like I think that that's a pretty apt comparison between the two of them. Now, this fight was not similar, of course, to Mike Malott's last fight. Mike Malott had the fight that he wanted in his last fight, but this here could have been more like that for Moises. However, Jared Gordon is a tough dude. He is a gritty, grimier fighter. Like he's going to be a guy. Like the thing that stuck out to me from Jared Gordon in this fight was very early in the fight, starting things off. Jared gets a push trip. Like he ends up like I think Moises went for a kick, I believe. I think that's what it was. Either that or it was Moises threw an attack of some sort. Jared catches it and pushes him down with the trip as well. So it's literally just like back the fuck up kind of thing. And it's like, oh shit, well, okay, now I got a tough guy on my hands over here.
Right.
That I think that having that type of fighter does not bode well for fighters like Thiago Moises, who like a more controlled, regimented type of performance. And when he can't get that, it starts to really agitate and throw him off of his game.
I want to make two other notes. The one thing is that when going into this fight, a lot of people had a misconception. They're like, dude, Jared Gordon's 36. He's fine. And I'm like, guys, he's 38. Believe so. Let me double check that. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Hold on. Oh no, he is 36. Okay, it's a different one. But either way, 36. It's not young. He's on the back end here. And when you go into this fight, and the second note is, when you look at these two dudes and you're making a pick, are you going to pick the chiseled guy or are you going to take the pudgy one? And this is where fighting is so interesting because a guy like Jared Gordon can somehow upset everything in your fucking ticket by being that dude. So
well, and so let me address both of those things. First, of course, physique does not equal power. We know this. So that's just something to keep in mind across the board. You know, you're the most chiseled fighter on the planet can still get knocked out by dude who looks like Country Roy Nelson, you know?
Yeah,
So that's number one. Number two, I think that it's probably about time, especially when we're talking about this level of fighting, when we're talking about these Apex cards, you know, it's kind of a grab bag of talent levels. I think that we need to evolve our thinking a little bit when factoring in age as a major component. I'm not saying don't do it, because see, I understand, because I see the face you're making. I understand that it is a component that you should keep in mind if there is a big discrepancy. But like overall, we've seen a lot of times, time and time again, really, where some of these older fighters at this level have been able to get really nice finishes and wins that completely trump the line of thought.
yeah.
So, you know, if you're going to consider it, I would say make it just a smaller component of a larger analysis.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So what he's saying, guys, is that Stipe. I'm not going to go further. I didn't have
All
more.
right, all right. Look, I speak for the old heads out here. You know, I gotta be a champion for us old guys, and Jared Gordon is also a champion for us old guys. So how about that? I mean, you know, you can think however you want to think about it. However, if that was the one criteria that you had, and that led you to your opinion here, especially considering that Moises was even money, that would have been very attractive to a lot of people, I would think. You know, I mean, this is what you can end up getting.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I was going to make a point also. Did he have anything good to say in his post-fight speech? I normally know he's actually, I did hear the beginning part. He said, you know, he had a sponsorship with some mental health group or something like that. But I did a very poor job at listening to the post-fight speeches. So if there was anything important before on the ones, go ahead and say that now, and then then
No,
go to this one, I guess.
yeah, no, the post fight for him was a lot of, yeah, he I actually had in the notes, businessman Jared Gordon had a lot of companies to shout out in his post fight interview. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was a lot of that. The one thing that stuck out of the a couple of companies that he had mentioned is that he has partnered with Fight Story. That is Angela Lee's organization. That is a very good organization to support. That supports fighters and fighters who are encountering mental health challenges and things like that. Of course, it is a self harm prevention type of organization. And with, if you know anything about the Lee family coming out of one championship, they've had some pretty terrible tragedies regarding that in the past. So definitely a worthwhile charity to support.
I heard that.
Yeah, no, I mean, other than that, I mean, no, I thought he was very well conducted in his post-fight interview. You know, he had a lot of things to hit. Jared Gordon is a good example of how you should conduct yourself in a post-fight if you have things that you need to get to. Because how many times have we seen fighters where it's like, oh yeah, you know, yada 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 about the fight, and then they go to take the mic away, and they're like, no, 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 one more, one more. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, if you have something that you need to say on the mic, say it when the mic is in front of your face.
Yeah, just don't even answer their question, you know, like
Literally.
just go ahead and do your own thing. They'll get the hint. They'll just keep going with their questions. You can just say whatever the fuck you want. People have done it time and time again, you know. Manel Cap, they didn't ask him if the camp was full of said F words. You know, he just wanted to let you guys know that they were. I'm just letting you guys know. Charles Radke also did not get the cued question for that. But yeah, so I agree. Just take your moment and have the time.
Absolutely. Then yeah, and as far as the actual fight itself, I thought that in that early part of the first round when Moises went down, he went down very easily off of that push trip that I was talking about. I thought he might have actually wanted to go down. He might have, you know, wanted to get to his back because he is pretty comfortable off of his back often. But Jared did good work from the top, even though he did get opened up, like you mentioned. And then back up on the feet. Thiago cracks Jared with the left hand. Jared says, I'll do you one better, throws a right hand back, and that is what put him out. So really not too much else to talk about in the fight. And yeah, the post-fight was good. So mazel tov to Jared Gordon. This was really just a nice performance and nice to see it out of Jared Gordon, who, of course, has overcome a lot of hardship in his life as a former drug addict.
Hell yeah, I appreciate the shout out on that.
Absolutely. No, it's, you know, it's good to see people able to turn their lives around in a positive way. So
Hell yeah.
all right, moving on to our featured prelim fight here.
Turn
And
it around in a positive way. This
bro,
fight right here.
And this is what I was talking about at the start of the stream, where it's like, if there are people who do things in these fights that are memory worthy, that you need to commit to memory, then remember the goddamn name and what they did, because Gabe Green in this fight with Mateus Camilo, this was something that should be remembered for as long as he's fighting, and he should be heralded for this performance. You're talking about this like card being like something that should have been in front of people. If this was in front of a crowd, the crowd would have been losing their goddamn minds with what this guy was able to accomplish here. So Gabe Green versus Mateus Camilo. Go ahead, sir.
Dude, this fight, I actually feel so good about the pick that I made. I just generally said this fight will not go to the bell. It's the featured prelim bout. It's in the spot for a reason. These guys, it's a short notice ish, I believe. I feel like I keep saying that, but I don't even know if that was actually true. But damn, they fought like they weren't going to the bell, and I damn near loved that shit. This was a really good close fight. The striking on the feet was a little closer. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Camila was pretty fucking toned for the fucking weight class. But the grappling, you got to that one sequence. The only memorable thing, I guess, was the actual end sequence, was when Camilo had a super deep sub. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head.
Triangle armbar.
Yeah, see, exactly. That shit was nutty. And then Gabe Green is able to recover from that, switch it, and then get the submission himself, which is pretty fucking nuts. I'm not gonna lie. So this was a really crazy fight.
Yeah, let me break this thing down into a little.
Yeah,
bit
my bad. Yeah,
detail.
go ahead.
Because you're fine, but yeah, just because like I said it on the watch long, you're gonna get a lot of Gabe Green glazing right now from me, because this was insanely impressive to me. So first round was a bit of a feel out. Nice movement from both these guys. Green was very active on his feet, so I was like, okay, he moves well. Camilo was keeping up with him though, so it wasn't like it was him sticking and moving and like being really like super fast twitchy kind of guy. It was just like you could see that there was a little bit of a speed difference, but it was even enough. And both these guys were just kind of getting the rhythm down, right? A couple of nice shots from Camilo in that first round. Really nice head body combo from him in that one. So it wasn't like Camilo wasn't doing anything over here. He was definitely doing his thing. Green did stagger Camilo in the first round, but due to the position they were in, Camilo turned it into a level change. So you didn't even really you couldn't tell that it was actually like a stagger shot, but they showed it on the replay in the ISO box. It was like he actually got touched, in the entry to the level change. But whatever, keep that to the side. Still, just an active first round. Nice heavy body shots from Green as well. That's the other thing to keep in mind. Like we're gonna talk, or I'll talk here about the stuff on the ground, but on the feet, Green was going to the body with some really nice power. And we see a lot of guys who will throw body shots out there and varying levels of power put on them. Like every one of the body shots that Green was throwing looked like it could have been the shot that would shut your liver down. So that's all off the bat. Camilo gets Green to the ground in the second round, and this is where things really start to heat up. Camilo gets Green into a triangle armbar, and it's locked in, and it is tight. All right, this looks like it could have finished like 90% of the people who had been in this position. Green even goes for the slam, but Camilo stays with it and it doesn't get him out of it. So a lot of times that gets you deeper into the choke. So it was like, oh, that's a bad move. Oh no, he could have really screwed himself here. Somehow this dude, Gabe Green, you can see he's a bald guy. You can see the wrinkles in the back of his head as he is trying to squeeze his head out of this position. The folds of the skin are bunching up on the top of his head. Somehow he is able to get himself out, then immediately transitions to the back of Camilo. Body triangle locked in such a quick motion, fishes the neck, and gets a face crank sub that Camilo taps to almost immediately. Like it was a quick tap for the position that they were in. So this reversal, the way that I'm describing it kind of quickly, was almost as quickly as it happened. And yeah. Gabe Green is all to thank for it. So this performance needs to stick out in your mind as the thing that you remember when you hear the name Gabe Green.
Yeah, this one was damn good. And I actually would like to think it's a little enjoyable to note that, like, he got him in a really deep sub, and he was trying his heart out for it, and then he kind of tapped a little early. You know, like that's like something the Cage villain would do, kind of deal.
Yeah, for real. It almost did feel like it was like, oh wow, that's a little bit of a storybook kind of ending.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess there could be a couple of things that you can attribute to that. The fact that this is a triangle armbar that essentially was similar to the one that Patty had on King Green. You know, that was one that was able to take out an opponent of a decent stature in this sport. It's certainly a veteran at the very least, depending on how you feel about Bobby Green's, you know, credentials. But either way, this could have finished him and 90% of the roster, but he was able to somehow thwart it. And then I would guess that the only thing I could think of is that maybe the slam did a little bit more damage than I was giving it credit for. But that's a big maybe. And then B, just that he might have put in so much effort in the earlier portions of the fight that maybe he was just a little bit gassed out. But other than that, it was really like, yeah, he got that, because again, it wasn't under the neck. It wasn't like a full RNC. It was like a face crank. It was right across the chin. So for whatever reason, Camilo was just like, no mas, you know?
Yeah, I agree. No, this one was definitely good. You actually described it very well. Now that you make me remember, yeah, dude, his head was veiny as shit because he was getting the life squeezed out of him. I mean, if his brains would have squirted out the back end, you probably wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this to be able to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, the way that Gabe Green just did in this fight, a guy who also had been out of commission for a little while. You know, this is him coming back after quite a while. We were talking, I think, a little bit about ring rust when we were talking about him before on last week. So, you know, this is a dude who was sidelined for a good amount of time here, coming back and regaining ground like nothing had ever happened. You know, not skipping a beat, coming back and getting himself out of some dangerous situations.
Is it or is it not true that he's a preacher?
He is definitely very one with the Lord. I don't know if he's. Did they say that he's actually
I
a
don't know
minister?
why. I feel like I read that or something. Like this guy in his 2 years off, he became a priest or something, or a preacher or something like that.
That very well could be. He certainly takes his religion very seriously. That was definitely a note that he made clear in his post fight. They were talking about it a little on commentary. I didn't catch that specifically, but it wouldn't surprise me.
A preacher sounds maybe more realistic than a priest.
Well, maybe him and Jafiel Filio can, start like an MMA religious circle of some sort. You know, they do a Bible study together.
There you go. I think that's what'll happen.
Yeah, you know, keep Bryce Mitchell out of that. You know, the guy he'll bring a Bible into the octagon, but you just maybe you don't invite him into the circle.
True.
But yeah, I mean that's all I had to say about this one, man. Gabe Green is that dude. Remember the name.
Yeah, I hope you bring this energy the next time he fights, and hopefully it's not against somebody that I also think might win.
I promise you that I will bring the energy because I will now not forget Gabe Green.
Are you just going to remember him like, oh, he's a killer grappler? Because, like, what's your takeaway from the situation that you saw in the finishing sequence? Because on the feet, they were pretty evenly matched up until it took a split-second moment after he slammed Rowan his head. And, like, a concussion might be valid. I mean, getting slammed on your head is very valid. I mean, and then moments later, then you get your face pulled on. It probably did fucking hurt.
So what I take away from it is two things. One is that he mixes up the shots nicely because those body shots that he was throwing with power were definitely good. So that as far as his striking goes, that'll stick out. And then the other thing is that this dude does not quit on himself.
There you go.
Dude, how many times have we? I mean, you could even say that. Look, I'm not trying to put it on the guy, but you could say that Camilo might have quit on himself a little bit in this fight. Perhaps I'm not saying that that's the case, but interpretation tapped rather quickly. Gabe Green is a dude who, in a situation that would have been the end for anyone else, said, "Not today, Satan."
Yeah, he was willing to go to sleep. That's what you should know. I mean, obviously, Camilo probably wasn't going to go to sleep if it was over the chin, but he was willing to, not tap. So there's the note there.
Go to sleep or die trying,
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
I think 50 Cent said that originally.
It was many men wish sleep upon me.
There you go.
All right. Let's move on to Julian Erosa versus Melchizael Costa. Your boy. I know you are a super fan of this guy. Did this performance here enhance your fandom, Chase?
You have no idea what this performance did for me right here.
What did it
Okay.
do?
Okay, so going into this performance, you have somebody who's going to be completely overrated after he got a knockout against Darren Elkins. Okay, cool. But in that matchup, he did show striking is valid. Striking is definitely something that he can do well enough that if you just stand there and let him punch you, he might be able to finish you. And also going into this matchup, I would like to believe that Melly's striking was not what I wanted it to be. I say the same thing about Chase Hooper. They're very similar in that aspect. They're very dominant grapplers. The striking could just be where I need it to be, and then I'm all on board. Um, Melly Costa finally came through with the striking that is not only impressive, but it's efficient and it is just the way that I was explaining it on the Discord call is that he was connecting everything was connecting for Melly. It wasn't that he was landing, he wasn't just throwing punches out there, dude. He was cracking. Julian Erosa was letting his face get punched so fucking much in this. Melly Costa is one of these dudes that the books have just been giving you the opportunity to win so much money because they don't know that he's this good. They don't know how driven he is. This is the guy who wants to be the first champ with vitiligo, and I believe that he can do that. Seriously, if he looks like this, if his striking can look like this again, we already know his grappling can look like subbing anybody he wants. So
All right, I need to dig into some of these statements here. So you're talking about Erosa potentially being overrated because he's coming off of a win over Darren Elkins. Do you not see the 31 in that win column for him, sir? This dude has been around forever. I mean, like as far as like in this sport goes, this dude is 31 and now 13. So I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily like a stomper of everybody, but this guy has been through these wars before. He is a tough dude and he can get those wins. 31 is no joke.
see, but you got to understand. From my perspective, when I started watching the fights live, from what I've seen with my own eyes in the moment, I've seen Ricardo Ramos be terrible. I've seen that plenty of times. Just saying. He actually improved. He actually came back and got a nice win. I'll give him that one. Then I see him go against Christian Rodriguez, who is a known fluke, he's known to just be a flop when the competition is high enough for him not to get not have to face somebody who's fucking just coming into the organization. And he taps like chicken super easily. Then he gets Darren Elkins and butchers him. But I know that was kind of the situational. So in my opinion, yeah, that's a little overrated of a run. If that's two fluky-ish thingies that I would consider in my mind, like it stands out to me as something that you should note. It's like, well, that wasn't like, I mean, he didn't beat the shit out of Christian Rodriguez and make him fucking tap when his own blood gurgling. It could that would have been impressive. I would have been like, holy shit, this dude is Juicy J, lives up to the name. Darren Elkins fight, the striking did impress me. For somebody that I know as a grappler, I'm like, damn, okay, he's tall, he's lanky, he keeps his range, he mixes in the kicks, and he's got power, apparently. I didn't believe in the power part because it was Darren Elkins, but coming into this fight, he actually was popping Melly up a good amount. They were trading a good amount.
Right. So, well, then I guess then that leads nicely into my note about Costa in this fight is that Costa was technically proficient. He was accurate. He threw in good volume, and the guy has no power because Julian Rosa is a dude who, I'm a fan. So I mean, we'll keep in perspective here. Maybe I glaze him a little bit too much sometimes, whatever. But the note that always sticks out with him is that he is very touchable. I mean, the dude, he goes down pretty easily. That's his fundamental flaw, is that he is chinny. So if you're cracking him in the face multiple times and stagger shotting him at least once or twice, I remember that, and you're not able to put him out, then that does make me question your power.
I will, yes, agree with the power that it is maybe not there, maybe. Or you could also argue maybe Julian Erosa just grew a pair of nuts. He got a chin now, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe he is just that guy. I don't know. It's maybe one of those fluky things that Julian Erosa will just go on to get knocked out again, or Melly Costa will go and knock somebody out that'll want to stand with him, thinking, oh, you can't knock out Julian Erosa, you can't knock me out. Who knows what the actual science is behind it? I will agree that I think the power was depleted very early because we see how gassed Melly was at the end of the fight. I want to say he was tired early, and then he was really fucking gassed at the end there. And then another thing that you want to say as a downfall to him, and this is just part of the learning experience, because now he was able to feel the third round heat. You know, I'm tired. I didn't sub him in round one. He didn't put me. He didn't fucking put his head in my arms. You know, whatever you want to say. So I think this was a good learning curve. But Melly, when he does get tired, he just does not care about defense. He don't give a shit. He just like keeps his head up there. He'll get punched. Actually, he does a good job. There was some moments where he was doing some great, weaving work, but he was getting touched and then he was just laughing it off. It's like, dude, you got to be careful with that. You're in a featherweight. Somebody might be able to carry the power until the third. I mean, just one division below, you got Vinicius Oliveira, who would do a flying knee with 3 seconds left on you, buddy. So
Yeah.
you better just be careful. I'm just saying. I
Yeah, no,
really do love
absolutely.
this dude, though.
Yeah, no, and it, I understand, and he's definitely won you a good amount of money over the times that you've been betting on him, so I can understand that element of it. And to be fair, Costa looked really good throughout these first 2 rounds. He was in good form, active throughout. Nice Superman punch and head kick in the first round. Takedown into the guillotine in the second was really nice as well, even though it didn't, get him to a submission or anything like that. But it was still nice work. Arosa on the other side didn't really come alive until late in the second round, which sadly cost him this fight because he was really trying to do everything he could in that third round to win. Like, this is another one of those fights where it's like the scorecard is absolutely accurate, but it doesn't, to me, tell the full story in the sense that Rosa, if you saw that third round, if he had fought with that same intensity throughout all 3 of the rounds, then Rosa probably would have won this fight. But it was like he just only started to really come into his own with like maybe a minute left on the clock in the second round. And then that third round, he was trying everything. But by the time he did turn it on, you said that Costa was gassed. He was gassed as hell too, Erosa. I mean, this dude, he was way too tired to keep his speed up. There were times, I mean, I remember Vitz King on the watch along saying, God damn, this Erosa dude is throwing slow as hell. And he wasn't wrong, sadly. I mean, and it's not even like Erosa doesn't have a speed a component to him under normal circumstances, but you go through 2 rounds basically of getting popped up by Melkaziel Costa over here, and you just don't have the gas tank to be able to carry it through in that third round, even if you want to. So you got to be more consistent throughout all 3 of those rounds. He wasn't. Costa was better, at least in those first 2. Got the win.
I think what is also a very underrated thing about Melly Costa. So when you think of Julian Erosa at the featherweight division, you think of a very tall, lengthy, rangy striker. When you think of Melly Costa, you don't think of a massive, imposing force. But if you want to look at the numbers 5'10" and 6'1", I mean, I didn't see it in that fight. Melly looked just as tall as Julian Erosa, and he looked way stockier. He's a big dude for the division, and you don't really think about it because he's always grappling with people. The fights are always over too quick. You don't really get to see him standing with people this much. This is going to be the only time that you're going to see somebody who's like almost as big as him, but obviously not as, sturdy. Melly Costa is going to, he's going to get somebody who's like, borderline midget, on to him here soon. And it's going to be easy for him, I think.
I would say that that's probably pretty accurate. I'm still skeptical of the dude when he's going to be going up against like the higher levels of this division. I mean, it's very like unwise to me to think that this dude is like champ potential because you're saying, he wants to be that dude, the first champ with vitiligo. Look, and obviously all power to him. I think it's a great story in that regard and everything, but I just personally, I'm not seeing it yet. Chase, you think otherwise?
No, I think there's a key component to that.
Yeah.
Is like the UFC knows that there's something there. Like he will be the type of person that they're gonna give the slow cook to. They're gonna make sure they give him the fights that they know he'll win, but it's not like an extreme jump where we know if he loses he's fucked. I think they're slow roasting this guy really fucking well because they know first champ with vitiligo, that's history making, whatever you want to say, world book right there. Like that's an entertainment portion of it. So,
well, no, I definitely agree with you on that. They certainly aren't trying to overload him early. They're not hot-shotting him in any major capacity. He's having to work for it if he's going to rise up in the rankings, and he's been doing it. So, I mean, they're obviously credit to him on that. I'm not a hater. I mean, like early, I don't dislike the guy at all. I question his power a little bit, and I've seen in the past some technique that was giving me pause. But in a performance like this, it does show that he is pretty goddamn well rounded. So, go out there if he can just somehow, if he is such a big guy for the division, which he does, he's bulky dude. It's like if figure out somehow, some way to get a little more power in those hands, because you got to be able to finish guys like Julian Erosa. Like it's
100%.
just it's necessary,
Yeah, I agree.
All right, moving on to Dustin Stoltzfus versus Nursultan Ruzaboyev. This was a crazy fight. I enjoyed this one a lot.
This one was definitely crazy as hell. Probably fight of the night. Yeah, oh yeah, this had to have been fight of the night.
I would say it was definitely up there if it wasn't it.
But no, to break it down, this fight started off with intense. I don't know. That was just something in the air, because these fights where you're kind of expecting a finish, you're always on the edge of your feet. One of these guys could land, and one of them can go to their butt. You'll see in the first round there was an instance where somebody got dropped. You'll see in the replay it ended up being a headbutt. In the moment, that doesn't fucking matter. Bro got dropped. He's on the ground. The judges are like, boom, he's on the mat. Whatever. Then it gets to a moment where it is one of the deeper submissions that we have ever seen. And Nursultan Ruzaboyev was able to weather the storm like a fucking Chad. He actually almost tapped. It was crazy. He reached for it.
Funny that you say that, yeah.
And then he was like, "Nah, I'm good. I can breathe," which was crazy.
I didn't notice that at first, but on the watch along, shout out to Toby. You had mentioned him earlier. He was in the chat for a little bit, and I think he was in during this fight, and it said, he was like, "Did he tap?" I was like, "I saw the hand over there. He didn't actually do it, did he?" And it was like, "No, you see, he
wanted to."
Yeah, it was getting a little close. That motion. When that hand is starting to do that, where it's like, is it open? No, it's like keep it closed, but it's like it's right there in tapping position. And he did not do it. So congratulations on that one for Ruzaboyev. But yeah, exactly. Like you said, head clash in that first round drops Ruzaboyev, which is very unfortunate. But like you said, too, does not matter. It's not one of those things. Maybe after the fact, there might be like an overturning, but you don't want to get it to that point. And shout out to Ruzaboyev for being such a goddamn tough guy to be able to weather that storm, because Stoltzfus nearly gets the submission via guillotine that you'd mentioned, very tight. Ruzaboyev somehow weathers all of that and then full reverses position into mount. So this is another instance, much like Gabe Green, where it's a very, very dangerous submission threat that somehow completely gets thwarted and reversed. Amazing composure and amazing willpower for Nursultan Ruzaboyev in that moment, off of something that was an unfortunate thing to begin with.
Yeah, no, this one was pretty fucking nuts. Through the whole fight, I actually want to make a key note. I know I don't normally note this, and I've only noticed it this one time. And people would always used to make note about, like, oh, the size gloves that Brock Lesnar used to wear. Like, he'd have to get the whatever.
Yeah.
Dustin Stoltzfus gloves compared to Ruzaboyev's in this, where it was, like, mind-boggling. I was like, does Ruzaboyev have the children's gloves on right now? Like, it was serious. Like, his hands are super tiny, and he's got he's got some nice little shots that he can make, and maybe his hands being smaller makes him a little lightweight. I don't know, but he is damn good, and he's actually living up to what we thought he should be. The jump against Buckley, we now see, being one of the only people to go to decision with Buckley. Okay, that kind of holds up now.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So I think Ruzaboyev is coming into his own. Stoltzfus, it's another guy that you just love after you watch him a few times, because he really does just go out there and put it all on the line.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, definitely that. The Ruzaboyev, like you talk about the hands. It doesn't necessarily make that much of a difference when you've got as nice kicks as he does. Because, dude, those head kicks that he was landing, spinning wheel kicks, he landed like 4 of them clean. Which is
ESPN. This is actually a great moment for me to bring this up. ESPN fix your goddamn shit, because I missed a whole spinning wheel kick apparently from fucking Ruzaboyev. I only got to see him through the 4 that he missed after. If at this moment in time he got a cool fucking moment, I missed it because of ESPN Plus. I blame whoever the fuck was on the desk that day.
Yeah, you're having some streaming problems.
No, on Saturday, yeah, fuck, dude, it was only ESPN though. It wasn't like, it was ridiculous.
damn, that is annoying. But yeah, no, Ruziboev with some really nice head kicks in this fight that all landed, and you're right. It really does go to show that Stoltzfus is such a tough.
Game.
Tough, yeah, game competitor, because he also an uppercut early in the second round absolutely broke Stoltzfus's nose. It wasn't the same type of break that we saw like with Nicholas Dalby, where it was like all kinds of smash to the side, but the uppercut absolutely, his nose was leaking all over the place. Tough mother eating a shot like that and then keeping the pressure on regardless, because that's the note really. It's like, yeah, we'll see sometimes guys get their noses broke and they'll stick it out through the fight. It takes a different type of fighter to get their nose broken, recognize that the break has happened, and then say, I am going to continue to push forward. So
Yeah.
Stoltzfus is that dude for that. Great effort for Stoltzfus all 3 rounds, just out-muscled by Nursultan in the grand scheme of things, I think.
Last thing I was going to notice, what did you think of Stoltzfus's little cut for this? He had a little mustache this time, and he had a little comb over. It was
Yeah,
an interesting
it
look.
was an interesting look, is exactly that. I thought that the light kind of shadow beard was noticeable, and I
The
don't know if
five
I was,
o'clock shadow, you know?
yeah, but like but obviously like trimmed, so you know that
Yeah.
it was intentional. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know if I was really like if I was really messing with all that much, but I mean, like he's a confident dude. I could see it working for him. I could see ladies appreciating it.
Yeah, dude, he's a cool dude. He's a game fighter, and I can definitely see him in a very fun matchup next. And he'll probably come out and lay some dude out. Like, I mean, he is a grappler too. Don't forget, guys. He can choke the shit out of you. It only takes one Chad like Ruziboev not to tap for you to forget. But he's got the game, and I like him.
And you know what I like about this fight specifically is that both of these guys, like middleweight is a very odd division in a lot of ways, because you sometimes have extremely technical fighters that can do well, and you sometimes have like very brawler kind of like barroom style guys that can also do well, including the champion currently.
Yeah.
These guys, I think, were a great combination of everything that makes middleweight entertaining. And when you put two guys like that together, this is the kind of outcome that you get. You get a really solid scrap with a lot of, at sometimes technical elements, at sometimes brawly elements. You get the whole package in a fight like this, and it was really entertaining to watch for that reason.
I actually don't remember if they gave time for the translator because Ruziboev like cut him off and was asking for one more. But I was almost at least believing what I was hearing from him out of his mouth is because Bisping was asking him like, "Are you going to stay at 85? Or are you going to go back down to 70 or whatever?" I want to believe that he was just like, "I want to do both. I'll do whatever is." I mean, that's what he's been doing since. I don't think the game plan's going to change. So fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, really, I think it's an okay strategy. Fight it both. See where you have the better success. See where you feel better at. And if you want to continue doing both, that's up to you. But either way, if you're having success, then follow the success.
Listen, look at this dude's record. This dude isn't here for the fucking money. This dude's here for the love of the game. He
That's
wants to
fact.
float around both weight classes, Kevin Holland style. Let's get it. Bring it up.
Yeah, Nursultan Ruziboev now 36, 9, and 2. And how old is Ruziboev?
Pretty young comparatively. Hold on, let
I
me
mean,
double check. I
yeah,
mean, he's not in his 30s yet. I can't believe 31. Okay, yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
young.
so early 30s with over 40 pro fights. I mean, this is a dude who, yeah, you're exactly right. This is a guy who appreciates the art of war. So I like it. I'm all here for it, man. I enjoy watching him fight. I thought this was a great version of him that showed up in this fight. And again, the tenacity and the composure and the willpower to be able to get out of the situations that he was in after that unfortunate head clash. As I'd mentioned too, it could have, had he lost due to the circumstances, it might have been overturned. There might have been something later on down the line that could have, made it right for him if that was what ended up happening. But he did not let it get to that point, and that's what you want to see.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. This was good.
Really nice. Well, we've now come to the new co-main event here, because this was at the time on the broadcast that we were made aware that the co-main event had been canceled. So if you think about it in the timeline of events here, I mean, this was a shorter event overall, but we've gone through 4 hours of fights all thinking that we were going to be getting the Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig co-main event. And one fight before it was supposed to take place, we are informed that that fight is no longer happening. So within an hour of when it was supposed to happen, it is canceled. So kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is very crazy that, because you got to think about, this is the Apex, so the format of the show is already, a little shortened. They don't have the, TV commercial, type vibes and shit like
It's
that.
also locked in, it's very
Yes,
regimented at
yes,
the Apex.
yes, exactly. So, and then you, on top of that, you have fights that come to conclusion very early, not just one, because you've even seen cards where just one early finish, they're like, oh shit, get them to the desk, talk for 15, get it going. But like for this one, they didn't really do too much of that. But the fact that we were sitting there watching Rodolfo Bellato promos and Paul Craig promos, just for 3 hours later, us be told that it's not happening. Like, I kind of respect the idea that we find out a day before, a week before, a month before at this point, because a fight before is low key nuts. Like, what did I
Yeah.
just witness? Like, people at the Apex, you got to remember, it's like the friends and family. 1 hour before, they're like, oh, well, shit, he's not fucking fighting.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here now? We just flew all the way here.
I was going to say, I mean, that's the real unfortunate note of it, is Paul Craig having to come all the way over from Scotland in order to have his fight canceled is really kind of shitty. Hopefully they took care of him for that. But yeah, I mean, look, hey, herpes is no joke, man. I mean, I assume anyway, thankfully, dude, not from experience, but I obviously it was something that was affecting him enough to make it so that he couldn't fight. And again, as I said earlier in the stream, it's if that's the case, then trust from a bettor's perspective, you appreciate the fact that this fight did not go down.
I know it's probably not herpes in the way that I've originally been thinking about it, but I do just find it funny that after they know, after we find out it's herpes, they're still adamant, we're rebooking this fight. And I'm just like, Paul Craig, come on now. What are you trying to wrestle with the guy who's got something, dude? Like, I don't know. You were eager to do it too. You're like, no, I gotta fucking fight him. No, I got to.
Yeah, I mean, make sure it is well past the active outbreak portion of the the recurrence there. But one
last note. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, please.
I think this is also key to note. 1 hour before we find out a reason why a fight is canceled, but we still haven't found out why Derek Lewis fucking pulled out against Jonathan Denise or whatever the fuck it was. I'm just confused on this. Like, why do they pick and choose when they want to let us know what's going on? Tell me it was a cold sore back then. Tell me he had a fever. I hear it now. What was going on back then? Let me know.
See, the difference there though is that Rodolfo Bellato self-reported. You know what I mean? Like Derek Lewis has been very tight-lipped about that one. So maybe during Derek Lewis fight week we'll find out, because he does have a fight booked. So maybe we'll get some answers then. But Rodolfo Bellato volunteering information that maybe he didn't need to.
Yeah, bro, we could have just not cared, honestly. After we knew it was canceled, cool. You didn't have to come out the next morning and say like, yeah, guys, I got such and such. Yeah, we didn't need to know.
They were just saying it was an illness, so it could have been food poisoning. It could have been. We've had that recently too, with food poisoning canceling a fight. So that was Ricky Tercios with Rosas, right? So I mean, there are definitely different circumstances that it could have been. Sometimes less is more, maybe.
100%.
The other note that I did have was that Diego Lopez seems to be the guy that they just wheel out to have in the crowd at events. So he was here, as he was in Des Moines, Iowa, in the crowd today, or during that event, rather, wearing a shirt with a puppy on it that said "Thugs Need Pasta." Is this something I don't know about?
That is, I did not catch that, but the way you described it makes it sound as insane as it probably is.
John Gooden said he always I like that shirt, so I went back and rewinded it to see what the shirt was, and that Thugs Need Pasta.
It might have been okay, because on the weigh-in show, Dean Thomas was wearing a sweater that just had a dog on it. And I remember that because my dad was looking at it. He's like, that's an ugly ass fucking sweater. Like, why would you wear that on TV? So maybe it was like a thing going around. Maybe they got a couple shipments or something. But I also would like to know that Diego Lopez must not like WWE, because he has to go to all the UFC events. He don't go to the WWE. You see Marab, you see Bilal, they're obligated. They have to go to one or the other. You either go to the Apex, you go to WWE. Just saying, that's the way it looks to me.
Well, Diego is, he knows where the real action is at.
True, true. He's probably like, what is this fake
Yeah,
fighting? Like,
right, exactly. But yeah, no, this puppy thing, it might be that some fighter or fight adjacent organization is doing their own version of like the Teddy Fresh, because like the dog reminded me a little bit of like the same style of art that that like the little, they have like a teddy bear for that, right?
I don't think you're focusing on the right things. What did the shirt say again?
Thugs need pasta.
That is what is key here. Where what?
It's just a fact, Chase. I mean,
I,
look, you're thugging. You need pasta.
I mean, true. I mean, he did listen. Marvin Vittori will let you know what pastas are best for thugs. But the dog has nothing to do with this. I don't know what the shirt is about. Oh, that's crazy.
Rigatoni, specifically in Vittori's
Yes.
case. But
Heck
yeah,
yes.
so I don't know. Maybe we're going to have to find out more about this and see what the Thugs Need Pasta meta is all about. But all I know is that Diego Lopez was rocking it and looked pretty fresh.
Who fucking knows, dude? There might be so many people in Mexico/Brazil that are just thugging it out eating pasta, like just eating shitloads of pasta. And he's like, I gotta represent the fucking culture, guys.
Right,
Like,
fair enough. Well, I mean, speaking of Brazilian thugs over here, let's talk about this next fight. Sadiq Youssef versus Myron Santos. This is the fight that I thought both of us, you've go listen to last week. We both were saying Sadiq Youssef. This is the Galaxy brain play over here. Sadiq Youssef, much more seasoned veteran fighter in the organization than Santos, who arguably got a little bit of a robbery in his fight before that against Francis Marshall. Either way, did not look great in that fight. New to the organization, guy coming off of the Ultimate Fighter winner, yes, but still evolving, still learning, still becoming better. We thought that Sadiq Youssef was a lock to win this fight. So Sadiq Youssef, the only pick that I made incorrectly on this card, also the linchpin of both of my major parlays, sunk me completely. So Sadiq Youssef really in the doghouse as far as the EMA is concerned.
this one was really hard to predict because yes, there was a lot of things that you can consider as being, key factors going into this matchup. One of them that I would consider is that Sadiq Youssef is somebody that I looked at against Diego Lopez and said, that is worrisome. As somebody like Diego Lopez, knowing that Sadiq Youssef was going to be across him, I was worried, and I was grateful that we got to see the advancement of Diego Lopez from that moment because we got to see the star, the stardom right there.
Sure.
Going into this matchup, I was really thinking Sadiq was going to have the same level of threat that I was expecting from the Diego Lopez, coming off the Edson Barbosa matchup, and Myron Santos. I was coming in again expecting a performance of somebody that I know probably didn't win their last matchup. Judging gave it to you, but was it the right call? Coin flip. I would also like to know, in hindsight, both of these guys moving up to lightweight does not change the opinion that I would have had on this. I would have gone in and still thought, oh, Sadiq's going to carry much more power up with him. He's huge. Like 55 is probably better for him. I was also wrong thinking that. Myron Santos, I think, in hindsight, what I will say is going up to 55 was probably a lot better for him because he struggled to make 45 on tough. He missed weight. They still went with the match. And that was the finale, I believe. Or maybe it was the fight before, something like that. Anyway, and then he also missed weight in his first matchup against Francis Marshall, I believe. Or was cutting and then had to cut again, something along the sort. He was struggling. So him moving up to 55 probably was great for him because now I'm kind of reading it as, oh, he was just like super fucking tired in his first couple matchups. Like he was drained to the point where like his wrestling was good, but like now he might be able to be even better because he's stronger. But I mean, this was just a very great performance. When it comes to the kickboxing, I still think that it was close. I was actually even believing that we were going to get a makeup robbery for Myron Santos winning against Francis Marshall. I thought going in, I was like, oh, I can feel it. Like this is the one where it's like too close that they got to get their get backs. Like you should have lost that last one. We'll make sure that, the course corrected. I was wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, Santos. Speaking to the weight, he looked massive in this fight. So yeah, the move up is definitely like he's wearing that well for sure. Youssef, I would say, a little undersized for lightweight, based on the comparison there. Sadiq also just was not quick enough to get his offense going. He held back too much trying to find counters that were not there. That was the most frustrating part of this fight for me, was watching Sadiq strategically, because you could see it. Like if you go back and watch this fight, you look at Sadiq Youssef, you see his eyes. What he is doing often in these rounds is he's looking at the body a lot, because what he's wanting to do is see when he's timing the shots based on the motion of Santos's arms. Now Santos was able to feint his way through a couple of those sequences and get Youssef off of the rhythm early, which I thought was really good on his part. But either way, if you see in the first round that like this is what's happening, where you're waiting for something that's not there, it's time to switch the strat, my guy. Like, he was just holding back throughout so much of this, and like you could see occasionally when he would like let his hands go, he was finding some decent success. Like, he landed some pretty heavy shots at times, but Myron found his groove really like decently, at least by the second round. I mean, first round maybe a little bit more feel out, but like it was certainly there too. But the second round, he really did come into his own. He was settling in, Myron Santos, that is, jabs and hooks landing, plus a leg kick that swept Youssef off of his feet completely momentarily. Youssef wore the damage at that point a lot too. Like, so it's like you're already seeing that the fruits of your lack of labor are coming into fruition there. It's like you're not quick enough to the draw. This is what's going to happen. Sadiq found out the hard way.
I think Justice in the Discord, I'll give you a shout out, because it was probably about a minute through this matchup, and he was in the call and he was on his way home from work, and he was asking what was going on, and I was like, dude, Myron Santos, and he's kind of winning on the feet, and he said he's like, you're not going out kickbox Myron Santos. If that's what your plan is going to be, I mean, you're just not going to do it. And in my mind, like, that stuck out to me because that's not something that I initially thought. Like, he's like an outstanding kickboxer. Like, that's just something that came to my mind. There's a lot of other things that, stood out to me as what was going to make him successful. But when you watch this fight, you will see a very methodical kickboxer. You will see somebody who's setting up a lot of different strikes, countering a lot when needed, feinting when he's trying to set more things up. The commentary, Michael Bisping, shout out, he was saying that Myron Santos reminds him, and he did say not in the movements, but just certain things he reminded of Anderson Silva. I know we got another Brazilian fighter here. Comparison's easy, whatever. I have often said that Alex Pereira has a little bit of Anderson Silva kind of esque in him a little bit. I think Myron Santos is a little closer to Alex in his little kickboxing. He's perfect at just waiting for the moment, and then he's capitalizing, and when he capitalizes, it's meaningful. He's not necessarily knocking heads off, but I think they're very similar, and the stance itself too. Like, I can see like copy and paste right there.
Well, yeah, and that certainly leads perfectly into the next note that I had, was that Santos showed great composure throughout this entire fight, especially as it got into the later rounds. Really allowed his technique to open up because of that. It's like Sadiq Youssef is, and again, you shouted out Bisbing, I'll shout him out too, where he was saying that Sadiq Youssef, towards the end of this fight, you could see a little bit of the panic motions in the way that he was navigating on the feet. Like, he had shot at one point early in the fight and going for a level change, and he really, really committed to it. Like, he went deep down into
he was on his knees for a lot of them. It was, yeah.
I mean, because that's his head like right under the cup, basically, the way that he
crotch
was,
sniffing his best.
I mean, it was below that even, because he was like going so deep trying to like make this takedown happen, and when it didn't happen, I think that he kind of panic might have actually been an accurate way to describe it, because it's like, this guy is composed on his feet and landing decent shots whenever I'm trying to do what I want to do. I want to counter, he's not letting me do that. I go for a level change, he's not letting me do that. I'm only left with so many options here, is what Sadiq Youssef might have been saying in his mind. So Santos being able to get him to that point, the composure really allowed him to let his technique open and get like a good amount of activity off that he wanted on his terms. Like, he really made this fight his own, and it was commendable for that. And the last big thing, because of all of what those circumstances were leading into that third round, I was screaming on the watch along that Sadiq needed to recognize how far behind he was by round 3 and unload everything he had with consistent pressuring. He chose to go for a takedown that wasn't there instead.
Yeah, see, and this is where I think I disagree. And I was very biased because I wanted Yusef to win, and I clearly saw that he was losing the striking battle. But when you go into the judging, I mean, I thought 1 and 2, it could have been 1-1, it could have been 2-0. At worst, split, the rounds. And then, you come into the round and, they talk about the coaching telling Sadiq he's down 2-0. Okay, that's good that's good coaching. But in my mind, it's 1-1. That third round it wasn't conclusive in my opinion. I thought this could have been the robbery that we were going to get. I didn't think it was as bad. It wasn't the greatest performance by Sadiq. Myron did look a lot more composed and he was just, showing his skill. But when a mixed martial artist is out here and he's mixing in all the facets, they weren't successful. But when he was losing one aspect, he was going to another, and the fight was close and he was at least mixing it in. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just the damage was the big difference maker
Yeah.
because Sadiq was certainly wearing it. And then the other thing that, to me at least, stood out was that when the final horn sounded, Sadiq's body language was absolutely atrocious. He looked defeated as hell. So it would have been very much a surprise to him if he had won that fight, I believe. So, all of those things, of course, shouldn't be the main. I mean, the damage, yes, but like his body language obviously should not be the main factor in anything. But I mean, I think that you take that throughout the entirety of what you saw in the fight and add that to it, it was a pretty foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of made this whole spiel, and I feel like I was not as bright on Myron Santos, but I was very high on him before, and I still am very high on him. Him beating Sadiq is very impressive. Again, this is somebody who I thought is threatening. These are the people that you gotta beat for me to accept that you are on the great path. And I wasn't against Myron Santos, and this definitely raises some stock. I think lightweight is definitely going to be better for him. But I mean, the competition in lightweight is not going to be better for him. Let me say that. But the cutting aspect should be easier for him. He should be at a more natural position in the game. And we'll see how it goes going forward. I'm very excited to see what's next. I mean, this was a huge jump. This was a huge jump.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was raises his stock pretty tremendously, I would say. So shout out to him. Look, I've been a little skeptical based on that last performance, but this was a really good one. So we'll see what he can do against these higher level competition guys, which he's definitely going to be facing going forward. See
And
what happens.
with a vacant belt currently, a win like this, putting your name in a spot where you beat somebody that's a killer, I mean, it's only going to do good for you. You might find yourself in title contention in the next 2 to 7 fights. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe closer to the 7 than the 2, but yeah, it's not out of the question in the slightest. And we both of us were pretty big fans of Santos coming off of The Ultimate Fighter, so this is definitely a good way to continue to progress forward. Last fight aside, this one makes up for it, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
And the other note too, I mean, Santos does have a loss on the record, but we'll talk about the main event here in a little minute. This was definitely a great card for undefeated fighters, breaking the meta that we've been seeing this year of undefeated fighters losing their undefeated status. So, 2 fighters on here undefeated, both retaining their O's.
I feel like I don't know if I said it vocally, but like in my mind, like when people were like, when we started seeing the first couple undefeated fighters lose, I'm like, in my mind, it's like, oh, well, they're the first ones up. It's like now the pressure's all on them. Once the first undefeated fighter loses, the big undefeated fighter with a lot of hype loses, then, you free reign to just go do whatever you want. There's going to be wins and losses all in your past. You're not going to be the first card of the year. You're not going to be whatever. I think that is key to it. Is like, yeah, he's in the middle. It's kind of coming up on summer. He's relaxed. He's in the vibes. Whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, and really, the other point too is that the organization has been bringing in a whole lot of new blood. So you have a lot more undefeated fighters in the pool. So obviously, there are going to be more people losing their O's. It's just the nature of the beast when that is the fact of how many fighters you have with that record or that type of record.
True.
So, yeah. Speaking of fighters coming into the organization, though, this is a little piece of information that was announced on this broadcast. We had heard about it a little earlier in the week. Patchy Mix from Bellator, PFL, of course, the last bantamweight champion in that promotion, Bellator, appears on the broadcast and is a new signee to the UFC. This was the quickest turnaround from a fighter leaving one organization and entering another that I have ever seen. Patchy Mixed was released from the PFL, and within 2 days, I want to say it was within 1 day, but I'll give it two just to be, safe with my assessment here. Within 2 days, he was already announced as signed to the UFC. This is a 21-1 former Bellator champion taking on Mario Bautista at UFC 316 on short-ish notice.
I think yes, that is what the public gets to perceive it as. Is like, okay, yes, he's cut, and then now he gets to sign with the UFC. Yes, that did happen relatively quick, but Patchy hasn't been fighting for a while. They have obviously no plans with a lot of these fighters, and it looked to me as if they were letting him negotiate. Go ahead and make some terms with some other people. We'll let you go. You can go sign with them. You know, you're still under contract, but then we'll void it because we don't want to pay you anymore. And then that's where this comes into play. And I think the relative quick turnaround, it makes sense for a fighter who's inactive in another sport or in another promotion. Like if it was somebody if it was Decheva, I'd be like, whoa, shit, like that. She just got cut and then she fucking, but this is a dude who's like, in my mind, he was already cut. Like he's just a free agent, just, still under contract.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought up Dakota Ditcheva because what I wanted to mention about this when it comes to PFL is that what it looks like to me, because the questions are going all over the place when it comes to how many of their top name talents they're just letting sail off into the sunset. And what it appears to me is the case here is that I believe the PFL is taking a huge gamble. And the gamble is we are going to get rid of the old guard and we want to start growing homegrown PFL branded talent. That is what they want. They want fighters who did not make their name in another brand, even if it's a brand that they bought in Bellator. They don't want the old guard of Bellator as the new face of their organization. They want homegrown, original talent that they can market as their own. I think that this is an insanely risky strategy, and I don't know if it's going to work out for them, but that is my hunch, at least.
Yeah, I mean it's possible. I mean, but like you said, it's a pretty big gamble, and if it's going to work, who's going to watch? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So I know I'll be watching this Patchy Mix fight because I do think that this is the best matchup he could have possibly ever imagined coming into this organization against Mario Bautista. Talk about the exact right level of competition to test a former champion from another organization. Of course, we saw Patricio Pitbull come in against Yair Rodriguez and not have success there. We've now seen Renier de Ridder come in and have greater success as a one championship former champion. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to these champions of other organizations coming into the UFC. I think that Patchy Mix versus Mario Bautista is going to be the perfect platform for Patchy Mix to show his skill set. So keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, we'll get into it when that fight comes, but I think these are great points that you're making.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can leave it at that for now. But let's talk about the main event here of this card, because I mean, there's not much to talk about, but I think that the implications are really more of what this fight was about. So this is Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales, and at least from our perspective, I think both of us on the last week's episode, this went exactly as expected. Sadly for Gilbert.
Yeah, this one unfortunately was what I expected as well. I knew it was going to finish by knockout. Michael Morales, one note to make is this guy is massive. This guy was
Huge.
Created in a lab. Ecuador has got scientists. I didn't know, you guys. I did not know. But they created him out of a test tube. He came out here with the hands to put on people, and that's exactly what he does. He is a little wild with his strikes, but his power is backing it up as of right now. He may get caught eventually if he's throwing these wild hooks and somebody's able to step on the inside and finally, crack him a few times, because he's going to be able to fight at range for so long until there's somebody who's able to get inside the range, and then it's going to have to be a different story. So what we're going to have to see from his skill set when that day comes, I don't know. But as of right now, shit, just keep fucking slinging them things. I mean, he's just a genetic freak. He's going to be able to do the knockout thing. I mean, apparently 18-0, he's going to be able to do it for a lot longer than most people. But I want to continue to see him do it against better competition. Gilbert Burns, yeah, guys, this was not it for him.
I mean, it's just not it. Period anymore. I think
Mm-hmm.
is really the sad truth of Gilbert Burns. I mean, this is a guy who has been trending in the wrong direction for a little while. I would say always kind of skeptical of Gilbert to begin with. Personally, I never really saw him as champion material. I always kind of thought he was one of those dudes that is going to get right up to the cusp of greatness. You know, we talk about those levels where it's like, you know, you get past the middle, you get to the top, and then there's that one level higher, which is the elite status that champions end up in. And Gilbert never really struck me as a guy who's going to be able to make that leap into the elite territory. And I unfortunately seem to be correct about that. Gilbert didn't really do much in this fight. 3 strikes and a thwarted takedown attempt was about the summation of his output. Gilbert took a couple of hard shots before initiating that takedown. Got it for a
Great
very
takedown for, by the way, the fireman's carry. That was a pretty slick move. I thought he actually had a chance. I was like, oh, he's actually going to be able to fight through a lot of this, and got him in that one move. And that was about all of his good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he had it for a minute. You know, it looked like he might be able to start initiating the wheelhouse that is comfortable for him on the ground, but Morales was able to just, again, you know, being such a muscular genetic freak as Chase described him, you know, able to get back to his feet, and then he just started wailing, man. The one thing that worries me a little bit about Morales is that he relies so heavily on the right hand as like his main go-to power weapon. I think that there's probably some game planning that higher level fighters, or you know, Gilbert Burns obviously a high level fighter, but like fighters who are more actively seeking the belt and a little bit more dedicated. Gilbert, he's a podcaster now. Like that's, you know, let Gilbert go off and live in podcast land, which is probably where he's going to be comfortable, and that's just fine. But like the fighters who are really like in contention, like a guy like, we're fighting welterweight, a guy like Shavkat is going to be able to do some game planning and probably be able to thwart a couple of the styles of attack that Morales has as his like bread and butter go-tos. So that concerns me a little bit, but there's something you cannot deny as the power that Morales has in those hands, because once he started landing on Gilbert, he crumbled fairly quickly. And shout out to Herb Dean for giving Gilbert every potential possible inch of room and leeway to come back into this fight, but he got dropped once, came back a little bit, got dropped again, and that was it.
Yeah, no, this one was pretty damn crazy. And I actually want to make a point to a lot of people are upset sometimes when the divisions have too many contenders. Like some people are just mad that there's not a clear title, contender. In this time right now, welterweight is like the fucking Wild West. Like these dudes are fucking crazy in here, and these are not just people that are one active, two good, but they're also like all the title contention area is like they're all fighting right now. Like they want their next fight to be the next one. If it's not, they're willing to fight in 2 weeks to go get the next one. Like, these guys are great. I love it.
It's a great point. Welterweight right now is the result of when we talk about like changing of the guard and shakeups in this sport. This is what you want to be the outcome of that. So I'm hoping that what welterweight is now is what happens at lightweight. I would
Mm-hmm.
like to see that happen, because like lightweight is a division right now that there's a lot of people that need to shake out. There's still some unanswered questions. People are moving. There's a lot going on that is not 100% fan friendly, I would say, in lightweight currently, even though it is such a competitive division. So I think that once those things start working themselves through and the new talent crop rises up through that division, you'll see basically the same thing that we have at welterweight now, where you've got a ton of killers all vying for the same slot at the top and really hungry for it too. Yeah, welterweight is on fire right now. It is really, really nice to see. I'm really enjoying this.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. This is fun. This is going to be one of the better divisions coming up. The end of this year and the beginning of next year. I mean, you'll see a lot of people that are ready to get their title shot. So
Yeah. And really, I mean, I think that as unfortunate as it is for Gilbert Burns that this is kind of the way that he's going out, this was the exact right thing to get Morales into the equation that we were just talking about with all of those killers, because Morales has been doing it. Morales has proven himself time and time again now throughout his entirety in the organization. The wins that he has gotten, you could say, oh, a couple of lower level guys, win over Neil Magny doesn't really move the needle to a lot of people. This is a legitimate, at least at one time, contender. Now I think a lot of people knew that this was not going to be the Gilbert Burns of old. Even then, it might not have been like a killer. But either way, the point is that Gilbert Burns still had a number next to his name that was pretty goddamn high, and Morales takes that over. Now he's right in the conversation up there with Ian Gary and Shavkat and Buckley and all of these dudes that are really trying to make the name for themselves. And our new champ Jack Della, we got to see what happens when Islam is in the equation. Who knows what that changes about all of this? So lot going on at welterweight.
yeah, I really like it. For the longest time, people and even myself, we were wondering what's the master plan? Why isn't Usman fighting? Like, why aren't these guys fighting each other? Ian Gary and Sean Brady, if they want to fight, let them fight. Whatever the case may be. But I think the magical crafting that the matchmakers are doing, getting selectively getting out who they need for the people that deserve it, and then it gets really crazy because then you got people calling you every day wanting fights. It's not just like, okay, we got to go call the Rising guy to get him the belt.
Right.
You're calling me every day to see what fight is available that can get you there. Then you have people, build it, they will come.
Yeah, and mark my words, obviously we'll talk about it in depth when the time comes, but Kamaru Usman has a fight booked against Joaquin Buckley. It's going to be the exact same thing. This
It's
is
going to
going
be
to
his retirement.
exactly. We're going to see him shake out of the equation as well, and then you are full free range with all of these guys who are all active, all young, all want it. And I mean, it really is going to usher in. I mean, we're already there, but that really will that, and then of course, whatever happens with Islam and JDM is going to also be the ending point of ushering in this new era.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the way that I thought about it just now because this wasn't like a predetermined thought that I had. But now that I think about it, having all of these people rush in at the same time, now your phone buzzing off the hook because people want to fight. Now you don't have people who are willing to sit out over minor injuries because they don't want to get lapped because they know that the dude is right around that corner. There's so many people fighting for the belt. So you better strategically make your move now if you want to get the shot because Islam's
Absolutely.
first. Who's next is the question.
Damn right. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, the time is now for these active welterweights. Make your mark.
Yep, I agree.
And yeah, I mean, that about does it for UFC Fight Night Burns versus Morales. I mean, not much else to say about that main event. It was over very, very quickly, and Michael Morales came out on top as we had expected. So it just creates this great atmosphere that we just outlined there, and put a really nice cherry on top of a very, very solid Apex card.
The last thing I want to mention about Mr. Morales, and I would be remiss if not bringing up the factual content around MMA space. I don't know if you've been on Twitter, if you've seen the video surfacing of Mr. Morales doing some Ecuadorian tradition, is what they've been calling it.
I was curious if this was going to come up or not. So yeah, well, why don't you inform the people as to what you're talking about there, Chase?
Oh well, I mean, I don't know too much about it. I don't want to speak out of terms. It's a cultural thing, but I would like to confirm that at the time, I was watching it saying that damn does look like Michael Morales. I done watched him last night. I mean, I think I would know. And then he walks away. I'm like, well, that's a pretty big cross dresser. That's a really big dude. I mean, but
Yeah. So apparently in Ecuador, it is tradition for, I guess, on New Year's Eve, for men to dress as women. So there's a video going around of Michael Morales in drag, essentially, and that's been kind of bantied about as a I don't even know what do you take away from that?
he'll whoop you still.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is the point, right? Is it's a tradition in Ecuador, which you can have your opinions about. Of course, it's a very macho sport, so men dressing in drag, I guess a lot of people would have some things to say, but go ahead and say them to his face.
True, exactly. And he'll take the dress off.
Yeah, yeah, take the dress off and lay the hands on. So, but yeah, I don't really have too much of an opinion about it because I like I said, I also don't know too much about the cultural aspect of it. Slightly odd, but again, I'm a little bit more of an open-minded individual in this space. I would say, men dressing as women doesn't really make too much of a difference to me. If he was gay, it wouldn't matter to me really. Even I like, does he win his fights? That's the
True.
only thing I care about.
True that. Yeah, I mean, New Year's, I just shoot fireworks sometimes. I mean, no, me personally, I just sit in my house. But I know people who shoot fireworks, and now I personally, I guess I know somebody who dresses up as a woman. I don't. I mean, it's just life, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you make a good point there. It is a stark contrast to Central and South Florida, where I come from, where the tradition on New Year's Eve is to shoot guns into the air.
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
yeah, a little bit of a different side of the divide, but either way, leave the guns at home, put the dress on, beat some ass,
Yeah,
Mr. Morales. I guess that's all I really got to say about that.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that is.
Actually, I mean,
No.
if you want to make a point, it is not a gimmick we've seen before. We ain't seen no cross dresser in the. We've seen gay dudes. We've seen gay women. We ain't seen the dude who just wears a dress just because like I don't
That
like wearing dresses.
I'll give you all of the credit in the world if you come to the press conference in a dress.
Dude, I mean, listen. I mean, if it's gonna be the talk of the town, if there's a card on New Year's and he's on it, he might as well. Well, there probably won't be a card on New Year's, obviously, but the following card after, maybe he might do it. Fuck it, like y'all want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Like, I don't know.
That might be the way to own it, though. Is fuck the New Year's aspect of it. Just be like, look, yeah, I know the video's going around. Yeah, here I am. I'm in a skirt. Say something.
I feel crazy now because Michael Morales is gonna watch this one day and be like, guys, I don't want to wear a dress. You don't have to. You do not have to fight for me. I'm not gonna wear a skirt. Please don't act this passionate about it. Like
Mike,
it was
we're
just
advocates. We're
yeah,
advocates for you, brother. We're making the case over here for you. This is
yeah,
for you that we're doing this. So
true.
don't let the supporters down.
Yeah, true,
I guess.
true.
Anyway, so yeah, that's UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Morales. After talking it through, Chase, what'd you think?
Dude, like I said, this card was really, really good. Unfortunately, a lot of flash performances that ended very quickly. And with cards that happen like this, that kind of just breeze by, you're gonna remember when they come back up. You're gonna be like, "Oh, he smoked that guy last time." But up until that moment, I mean, it's gonna go in the memory bank, especially with a week off. Like I've already been like, I came in today. I even thought before the card, I was like, "Wow." I've already been like locked in thinking about next week. Like I got 2 weeks to figure that one out because I fluked on this one. So I don't know. This one is just in the memory bank already.
True. Yeah. Well, I again go back to the point of like you can maybe maybe it gets filed away. Maybe it's not something that has like the huge standouts that a card in front of a crowd might. But don't forget the quality of the performances when you see the names next time.
Yeah, 100%.
So, to that end, generally on this show, we would be going into our basic predictions of next week. But we, of course, are off this coming weekend. We do not have UFC fights coming into this weekend on Saturday. So, we're going to do next Monday our next week's fights thing, where we will be doing predictions for this card, even though this also is an Apex card. So, it's interesting that it's not like coming out of an off week into like an event in front of people. But either way, we'll do our predictions in full on the next episode. So just to run these down real quick, you've got Aaron Blanchfield and Macy Barber in the main event. I really like this co-main event as Mateusz Gamrot and Ludovic Klein.
Should have been the main event, probably.
Probably should have. Yeah, I mean, both of those guys, big enough names at this point that.
But the women have to have a 5 round. That's really all it is.
It's a good point, and also the women are higher in title contention in their division, so it's just one of those things. But I do like this as a co-main if it's going to have to be one. Then it kind of takes a little bit of a drop off here with Billy Ray Goff versus Seokyeon Ko. Yeah, not I. I guess. Again, we'll get into all of our actual opinions later on, but just keeping it going here on the rundown. Dustin Jacoby versus Bruno Lopez. Do like that fight. Zachary Reese coming up against Dusko Todorovic. That has potential to be a decent fight. I think both of
Dude
those
looks like
guys.
a cone head in that picture, man. That's all I'm thinking about, man. That's crazy.
That is funny. He does got one of those
Yeah.
long heads, But that that's like a even level fight, I would say, between the two of those guys. So they could be pretty good between them. Going down into the prelims, I mentioned Jafel Filio a little earlier in the stream. He is a preacher man.
He's a
So
preacher. Yeah. Okay.
he
Yeah, he is
certainly
too.
is. Yeah. Versus Alan Nascimento. That could be somewhat decent. And then we'll talk about Andreas Gustafsson. I guess he doesn't have an opponent booked. They got opponent TBA over here on ESPN for some reason. Maybe his opponent pulled out or something happened there. I don't know exactly the circumstances as to why he doesn't have an announced opponent, but some interesting stuff about Gustafsson that we'll save for another episode. Did not
Facts.
know.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to talk about that eventually. This could have been with this next fight. Go to this. This could have been way higher on the card. What the fuck is this?
I'm glad that you said that because when I was going through these fights on the on the watch along for the event that we just went over, I had said the same thing. I was like, Macy Chiasson versus Ketlin Vieira. That is a great fight and an underrated on both sides. Macy Chiasson is consistently underappreciated in this sport, and I think it needs to change quickly.
Like, bro, Caitlyn, yeah, this is the girl who just lost to Kayla Harrison. This was the second ranked woman. That's higher ranked than the people in the main event.
Bro, we literally just went by this fight. Third down, top of the card, Billy Ray Goff and Seok-Yun Ho. Are you telling me that Ketlin Vieira versus Macy Chiasson is not applicable to the main card? This is a prelim fight.
This is actually pretty nuts. You could go down the rest of the prelims right here, and all of these could be above.
They need to restructure this card because, Ramiz Brahimaj versus Oban Elliott. How is this a prelim fight?
Yeah, for sure. I don't get that at all. Oban Elliott is also a big ticket name. Like everybody knows who Oban is. He's the Hulkamania guy. Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in making a name for himself, fight over fight for sure. Huge favorite in that fight as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Hollabaugh versus Jordan Levitt, another fight that probably could have been on the main card. I mean,
this one could have been the featured prelim at minimum if you actually shift the ones above correctly. Like, this isn't horrible, but it's not great.
Yeah, I'm telling they need to shake this thing up because Markel Medeiros versus Balaji Oki. Now, I mean, Oki, a little bit of a dude who's been spotty. He's the guy that Scottish Chris Duncan got that really nice guillotine from bottom choke in. And Markel Medeiros, he was the dude that in his last fight kind of skated by. Like, he ended up getting the win, but it was kind of a robbery. Either way, though, these are guys who have been around. I remember both of their names. Like, this is a little bit odd. And then
I actually wanted to stop you here.
Oh, please.
Do we remember what we thought about Medeiros in his last fight?
That he did not look great and that he skated by and got a gifted win was what I took away.
Just making sure. Okay.
Why?
I mean, he is the dog, so I mean that would probably add up that he's not as impressive as maybe some other prospects.
No, I like the matchmaking on this one because Oki has been very spotty, and Medeiros is a dude who kind of just like he was coming in, I believe, off Contender Series. The fight before that did well on the Contender Series, did not do great in his first fight in the organization, and then
against Austin Hubbard.
Yeah, exactly. Hubbard was winning that fight for sure.
Okay. Yeah, just making sure we remember that.
Yeah, most definitely. Of course, we'll go over it on the next episode. But and then starting the thing off, Raylene DeSantos versus Alice Ardelian.
Yes, my Romanian queen.
The Romanian queen, the queen of TikTok over here. So all of these names on this prelims are like really decent. This is a really stacked prelims for an Apex card that somehow has a jumbling in the upper part of it. So perhaps they might be adding more fights or changing things around or whatever, but we'll see what ends up happening. Either way, get to this one early because there are going to be some good fights on it.
I actually agree. If that's the key thing to note, if this is what the card stays as, which is bonky as hell, it's going to be firefights for pretty early, at least I'd say.
Absolutely. And so, with that, because we are going to be going over this card in its entirety, we thought that for the remainder of this episode, since we got a little bit of extra time here, we would take some questions from the chat. So, a good way to start it with the homie Nav coming in hot. He asks, thoughts on Bellotto custom herpes shorts for his upcoming rescheduled Craig fight? Do we have herpes themed shorts for Rodolfo Bellotto in his next fight?
I'm envisioning what I would want them to be if that's the case. So it would be like blood cells, right? Like you would have a blood cell design, and then there would have to be some sort of tumor growing out of that blood cell. All of them, actually. I think this is a great idea. I think they could get in the lab. If Bryce Mitchell can ask for fucking camo shorts, get my damn herpes shorts. I'll fucking never do again.
I think that the germ emoji just stylistically stamped all around in like a cool pattern.
Or simplistic designs are very simple. Of course, instead of his name, it can just say herpes on his shorts.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, don't just go really, really lean.
He's known as herpes now. I mean, I wouldn't call him anything else. He's literally said, "I have herpes." That's different than a cold sore, buddy. You maybe should have read the translation a little
Oh,
better.
brother, self snitching at its
Yeah.
finest. But yeah, I like the concept. If he's going to lean that hard into it, maybe he ends up in a situation where a bunch of fighters are not going to want to take fights with him because like they already know he is a black belt in BJJ. He's got decent striking, and if all else fails, he can rub his face on you.
True. Scrimpo actually has a really good question. We should
Yes,
answer that
shout
one.
out to Scrimpo. That was coming up right next here. So Scrimpo asks, is Bautista going to pull another ballless Joe Rogan neck-sniffing MMA strategy against Patchy Mix, or is that not going to happen? I love this question.
I actually think it is going to happen. You guys don't understand that this is somebody who has been holding UFC level talent against the cage for long periods of time. He did it against Jose Aldo. Now Jose Aldo is not the greatest at getting off the cage, and he gets frustrated and he gives up very, I wouldn't say easily, but whatever you want to say. In this particular matchup, I think Mario Batista is going to do the same exact thing that he did against everybody else.
See, that is exactly what you just said is why I disagree, because Jose Aldo has a cage stalling problem. Like, or had obviously retired now, but in his time, in his return to the organization, he was allowing and accepting those positions even before he left. In his previous fight, I mean, there was the fight. I want to say it was, I think it was Merab, right? It was him versus Merab, I believe, where he was just allowing it to happen. Now, of course, Merab championship level, so it's a little bit different, but the fact remains, he accepted positions on the cage way too readily. Patchy Mix, younger, wanting a former champion in that organization, Bellator, coming over trying to make a name for himself now as a free agent, coming into the UFC. I think it behooves him to do everything in his power to not let that happen. And if there's somebody who can do that, Patchy Mix the guy.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to find out because this is another guy that's coming over, and same thing as Pitbull. I was told that he's just not gonna let it happen.
Younger.
Okay.
Younger,
fair.
more hungry guy. I think that Pitbull, the difference there is that Pitbull, him getting the championships in Bellator, that was reaching the pinnacle for him. Like he topped out with that and was okay with topping out with that. A lot of people were wondering why he even came to the UFC in the first place. They were definitely saying that they weren't going to take his brother. Patrici wasn't coming over. So it's like, okay, if Patricio's coming over, does it even make sense? I don't think anybody who followed Bellator to a decent extent is questioning why Patchy Mix is coming over and entering the mix. No pun intended.
Yeah,
Like,
I hear you.
This is a dude who has proven this. I mean, the stripes are there for sure. 21-1, man. I mean, this guy is credentialed. Say what you want about the level of competition and all that. I'm going right back. I'm reverting right back to the thing that I was going away from when I had said that I was not going to be giving so much credit and respect to these guys coming in from other organizations. This time, I believe I am speaking from a place that makes sense when it comes to Patchy Mix.
I hear you. Mario Batista has proven that he knows how to win in the scoring in the scorebook. I mean, the style that he has is not necessarily going to win matches right now because we're kind of the judging does evolve over time. You know, we do get into different parts of the year where some things matter more than others. Sometimes more walking forward means more than grappling against the cage. You know, we just saw with Valentina and Menon that thigh strikes, they're not it. You can't win a fight like that. So if Mario Batista is smart, he maybe will learn, take notes from a performance like that. Like, okay, that won't secure me the round. That won't win the round. But if I can still implement it enough to get him off his game, get him frustrated, and then we break, and then I get him on the, whatever you want to say. I think Mario Batista, he seems like the type of dude who's pretty determined, and he's already fought to this level of the competition. He's actually been here for a decent amount of time now. So I think it's rightfully so that this is somebody he's going to prove that I'm a top contender in the UFC. You're just the champion of another promotion.
And to play devil's advocate in that line of thinking, Bautista is a guy who does not care in the slightest if you like him. He does not care if the method of victory is not something that you appreciate. He doesn't care if an entire nation is booing him. Like, he will stand up there on that microphone, look at the audience, and tell them to go fuck themselves. So,
Yeah.
If he has a method that works for him and can execute that game plan, if it's not fan friendly, he could not give two shits about that. So
yeah.
If he's going to do it, he is going to commit to it full-heartedly, and that I can at least respect about him. That he does, much like Bilal was before he decided that he was a striker. It's like, I'm going to do what it takes to get the win, and I don't care what anyone has to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. Hell yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, if anybody else has anything they want to throw into the chat, we will give it a couple more seconds here. But that's pretty much the questions that we had. I went back and looked through. I didn't see anything that was sticking out to me as needing to be addressed. I mean, I guess just since we are waiting on anybody else, Rick Allen earlier in the stream did ask, Chase, are you planning on seeing the new Mission Impossible film?
Actually, if we're going to go on a tangent here, I would like to let you guys know that Mission Impossible, for the longest time, I had never seen any of them because in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's just like a spoofy but serious spy movie kind of deal. Incorrect assessment. These are very good action movies. These are what the bare minimum of action movies should be. And I think that's what you should look at these movies as. It's like, this should be the standard. If you get close to it, you're doing a good job. Story, the actual action scenes themselves. You have somebody who's like an actual stunt man as your main guy. Like, I think that is all just building a very perfect universe for these movies. And with that being said, I will probably wait for it to come out on streaming.
Fair. Mission Impossible as a franchise is one that I am old enough to remember the very first one in the series, and I quite enjoyed that. I think I saw maybe like 2 or 3 of them, and I know it's been like, they've got like 11 films in the series or something along those lines at this point. So I certainly have not been consistently keeping up with them, but I do know that they are pretty much as you described. Like, it is quality down the line, not necessarily like the most like cerebral kind of content, but like, good enough story to be engaging, good action. I would say that, and also this is confirmed to be the last one that Tom Cruise is going to be doing. So for that reason, I would certainly not oppose watching it. If somebody wanted to watch it with me, or if it came on TV at some point, or if I saw it on Amazon or something, I would give it a shot.
I actually would like to make an interesting point. Is like, if you liked the first one and you saw a couple after, I'm actually surprised you did not continue watching, because the one that I saw Mission Impossible Fallout. That's the one with Henry Cavill when he has that sick mustache. That one made me go back and watch the other ones because I was like, wow, this is like the 7th movie in. You're gonna tell me it's still this good? Like, it actually was a very good experience, knowing that sequels do hold up in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing for me personally is that, like, I don't always need, like, and I don't want to say mindless action as in like that's all that they are, because it's definitely not that. I do think that there's more to that series than that. I just don't always need that type of action movie at all times. Like, it's more of something that, like, if I'm in the mood for that type of movie, I'll go to. So like, I just don't consistently keep up with it just because it's not like always the thing that I want, but it's certainly something that I'm not, like I said, I'm definitely not opposed to it. And I can appreciate when I do decide that I want it. So yeah, quality franchise.
Oh yeah. And to Nav's question, we did talk about Patchy, but is there anything you want us to answer about Patchy? I mean, we did go on a whole big spiel, but if you need something in particular to have some information on, I'm sure we can go over it one more time for you, just a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, for sure. We were talking about him versus Mario Bautista just a moment ago, saying, is Bautista going to be able to get the game plan off that he would like? The same type of game plan that he had against Jose Aldo. I was thinking that he will not be able to do that. Chase was saying that he is a credentialed enough fighter at this point in the UFC that he could get his way. I'm sticking to my guns on that assessment, and we'll talk about it, of course, when that fight is coming up for 316. But the initial thoughts, at the very least, based on what I know about Patchy Mix, I think he's going to be able to overcome and not be held up on the cage for an entire fight.
Is this somebody that you absolutely like, for a fact, like this is the guy, like Patchy makes it him? Or is this just somebody that you, like, okay, I know he's good. Like I've seen him fight, I've seen him win. Like I know he's good. Like, is this somebody that you would revere like Josh Van in my regard?
I want to say, yes. I want to say
Okay.
yes. I mean, but it's always caveated by the level of competition, of course. Now he has like the difference I would say with him is that he is able to find the victory against anything that has been put in front of him, pretty much, with one exception. In 21 times, 22 total, but 21 efforts, he has been able to make it happen one way or another. By hook,
Okay.
by crook, this dude is extremely good. He is the guy that was in press conferences saying about himself that if I was in the UFC, I would be fighting Sean O'Malley. Of course, Sean was champion at the time that he was saying this. So he was like, yeah, I mean, like, people are saying because I'm in Bellator that I'm not world class. Like, see what's up. Come and make it happen.
Sounds
He was
like big
asking for that
talk
fight.
for at the time. I mean, you want to call for the UFC champ. I mean,
I think he was angling for champ versus champ at the time, seeing if maybe that might have been a possibility.
yeah, but I think the UFC would realize how bad of a fucking problem that is because look at Pantoja and Kai Asakura. Like, it can just happen. Like, yeah, same with Michael Chandler. You actually give him the shot at the interim belt, smoked by Charles or whatever. So I don't know. I think the UFC is getting wiser to it. They did better with Kayla Harrison. They didn't just throw her against fucking Amanda Nunes or something like
Right.
that. Like, they're giving her time to actually establish that she can compete against the top level first, and then we'll go ahead and attempt for the belt.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that that is certainly how it should be. But that also being said, because they're bringing him in against Mario Bautista, I think it should be the exact fight that he needs to show that, like, I'm going to come in here and smoke. Like, that's,
See, and I think this is another like fuck you from matchmaking. It's like, okay, you think that you're gonna come in here and you're gonna be able to play your game. You're gonna be Patchy Mix. He's a striker, yes.
no, I mean, he's a grappling guy too.
Okay, okay,
More so, I would even say.
okay. Well, I think Bautista would do a pretty good job of making it uncomfortable for him, making it not just a walk in the park. That's all I'll say.
Fair. Beeb says he is betting the house on Kayla
Ooh.
Harrison going up against Juliana Pena in their upcoming fight. Um, and
I
that
agree. Pena
Pena
lost to
lost to
Rocky.
Rocky. Yeah, I mean, I think that your line of thinking is not incorrect. I would be slightly hesitant about betting the house on Kayla because Kayla did have some adversity against the aforementioned Ketlin Vieira in their fight. It wasn't like it was so much adversity that it was insurmountable for her, but Pena is not an unwise fighter, I would say. I mean, like, she's not the greatest of all time. She's certainly not as amazing of a fighter as she herself believes her to be, because obviously the amount of ego in Juliana Pena is certainly noticeable and is something that I think a lot of people want her to get slapped down because of. That being said, she is still a fighter in my estimation who has decent fight IQ overall.
I think what is crucial to note, at least for me, and I keep saying this because I think it's been, quote me on this, 4, maybe even 5 press conferences now since Kayla Harrison has been in the UFC, and she has dropped the iconic line of Hellbows and I have yet to see her drop one fucking elbow in the ground position. So I really don't know what game she's talking about. It's either A, she's delusional, B, she's just not able to implement the game plan that she wants. Or maybe those are the only two options. I don't know. She just talks a big game, and I'm waiting to see her smash some people. Like, that was what I was waiting for. She came into the UFC. She's talking about, I'm here to smash these women. I'm here to take the belt. Girl, you subbed out Holly Holm. Okay. Wasn't a smashing necessarily, but you subbed her. I'll give it to you. And then Caitlyn, well, you just did nothing for 3 rounds, basically. So
I mean, I wouldn't say it was nothing. It was definitely more a grindy, grudge matchy kind of deal where it wasn't the smoking that we were expecting for sure.
I still did not see one elbow. And she's talked about it for 5 press conferences now because they love to throw her on the fucking stage 6 months before she's about to fight. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, it's a good point. They do have like this like building of Kayla Harrison, I guess because of the mystique of her being as dominant as she was in the PFL. It does kind of, the narrative is already there. It sort of sells itself a little bit. That being said, she's also a good talker, I would say. So I guess there is that element of it, and also it will make sense as far as the trash talk aspect of this is going to probably look pretty good on the press conference between the two of those ladies. Either way, though, it is a difficult sell to me that she's going to just come in here and be able to enact her game plan 100% against Pena, who has she's been around the block. I mean, love her, hate her, feel however you want. She was on The Ultimate Fighter years and years and years ago now. She's one of those fighters that's been around so long that you forget she was on The Ultimate Fighter.
I genuinely do not want to bet on Pena, but betting on Kayla here just doesn't seem like, and I am judging off of, when it comes to the bantamweight division for women. I mean, this is not the most fruitful skill division, so maybe I have to take it with a grain of sand that what I'm seeing is not going to be what I'm expecting, but it is still going to be what will win a championship belt. Now, that being said, Julia Pena, she knows how to take fights in deep waters. Kayla Harrison, she's a little too muscly. I mean, she already cuts a lot of weight. There was already question if she was going to be able to make the weight class. It could be a grunge fight where she gets gassed really fucking quick somehow. And I don't know. We've seen it before. Somehow people come in prepared and they're just tired after one round. Blow the load. You don't even have to do that sometimes. You could just be, the moment could pass you, whatever you want to say.
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors that are going to go into that fight, which, of course, we'll break down as the time comes to it. But initial gut feeling, I would be I'm going to stay with Kayla on this. Like, I'm giving her the same leeway that I give a lot of these fighters that have not proven me wrong yet. I mean, I do think that the cracks in the armor showed in the Ketlin Vieira fight, so that definitely plays a factor. Until I see the full-on trouncing, I will continue to show support, and I'll stick with her as my prediction for that fight. But I do not count out the veteran status and the fight IQ and navigation of Juliana Pena. So even if she did lose the fight with Rocky.
Yeah, she's just. I mean, it's hard to believe that the bumbling buffoon style actually wins in the UFC, but there's plenty of champs that just fumble their. I mean, fumbling is a bad way to say it, but they honestly just look like they have sometimes just the craziest way of winning, and Julia Pena is maybe one of the prime examples of just running in face first, chin up, throwing punches, get dropped, and then somehow come back and win. Whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, her getting gifted the win in that fight, I think is going to probably draw out that line a whole hell of a lot, because I think that a lot of people are going to basically feel exactly like what we're talking through here. They're going to say, "Oh, she, that she lost that last fight. Kayla's undefeated in the organization." So I don't even think that the value is going to be there as far as from the betting perspective goes. Like, this would be a fight that I probably stay away from, unless there's some like definitive factor that comes to mind at some point that I'm like, okay, that's the thing that makes me have to put money on it. But I mean, as of right now, it's like if they're going to have a huge page or a huge price tag on Kayla Harrison to win that fight, I'm probably just going to stay away from it.
I'm pretty sure Juliana Pena is a plus 540. So
So yeah, I mean, then that to me, it's like if that's the case, then I might throw a little money on the dog just to have it, but I'd stay away from that fight as to putting it in my major parlays or having it be like a major leg.
100%. And to Beeb's point, Kayla and Nunez at 145 for the BMF, I think is a great idea because then you could have Max and Ilya go back down. Then we actually have the true BMF belt matchup, right? Right. And then at the end of that night, the winner of each of them fight for the unified BMF. So Nunez and Max, hopefully. We got that one.
Yeah, that's I love the scenario. I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
First intergender fight in the organization. People have been talking about it for a long time. When we're gonna have men fighting women,
I mean, at least a 25er versus a 35er woman. I think that might even be a little more fair. Like if it was Kayla versus Charles Johnson, I think that's a fair matchup. I think that's a fair matchup.
I mean, yeah, you're not accounting for any of that bone density and
No.
power as far as the muscle mass goes and all that kind
Nah,
of stuff.
Kayla's gonna drop the elbows. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, that's where she'll unveil them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but no, as far as that fight goes, if that actually does like in like a more realistic kind of context, if Kayla wins the belt and Nunez is coming back, then I mean, do they throw a BMF belt on top of the actual championship belt too? I don't think that they do. So I
Women's
mean,
BMF won't come unless it's for fucking Shevchenko or Wei Li, probably. And
and
even then, those aren't killers. Like
that's what
those
I
are
mean.
decision
Like,
merchants now.
yeah, you'd probably have a better fight if they were going to try to like start throwing BMF fights in for women or like creating a women's BMF belt. You'd probably have a better shot at someone like a Denise Gomes getting a crack at it. And
That
I'm
is
not saying
crazy recency bias.
no, well, but that's my point though. That's my point is that you'd probably end up getting like if you can find me a woman who has strung together 3 consistent knockouts, find that woman for me. That's the woman that you end up actually putting in there, and you can't find it. Like, I mean, you might get
Um,
Jillian Robertson with all of her submissions. You know what I'm saying? If you're talking about just finishing ability, period, then maybe there's a couple of people that you can have a bit of a conversation around. But if you are talking about what the BMF was made for, the person that's going to go in there and throw hands and like make it an exciting, entertaining fight, what woman is that right
true.
now?
I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
You know,
Okay.
and trust me, I'm not. I take no joy in that. I would love to see a woman finisher that's going to be out there running through the competition, knocking people out left and right. Macy Chiasson might even be someone who's closer to that.
Mhm.
You see my point of what I'm trying to say here is that it's like the finishers that you would get that actually warrant a BMF fight when it comes to women. Like it's the dynamics are different. The
I
dynamics are
agree.
different.
I agree.
Anyway, so I guess that's about it. I mean, and that does kind of take us to time. So hopefully that little Q&A was enough to round this episode out and keep everybody happy here. But unfortunately, because there are no fights this weekend, you will not catch us on our individual watch-alongs. But if there were fights, you'd be able to catch myself and the Vitz King on the Yama channel, youtube.com/@Yama Show, @Yama Show on Twitch, Kick, and Trovo as well. And Chase, I know that you can tell them that where they would find you.
Yes, they will find me hanging out, doing watch alongs. Every Saturday, there's UFC on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. On Twitter, you can see me goofing around with Mokayev, and we having a good time tweeting back and forth on x.com/@creative parts and PARTIN.
Yeah, I forgot. We didn't even mention that you had a little interaction with Muhammad Mokayev. Did you
It
want
ain't
to
even
talk?
an interaction. I mean, kid just don't even know who Josh Van is. I can't really tell you any much more. Like, if you don't know, then you're gonna know. Like, I don't know how to tell you. I mean, if the kid don't know how to turn his TV on prime time network when Joshua Van is out there, I I only tried to tell him what he tried to tell me. He went on Twitter. Get this, guys. Get this. He goes on Twitter talking about Tim Elliott might be the best flyweight of all time, brother. Joshua Van lives on planet Earth. I'm just confused here. I seriously will not get what Makayev's talking about. But yeah,
Well,
that was just the moment we had.
yeah, I mean, and Mokayev's not going to be seeing a whole hell of a lot of anything over there in karate combat until he finally sulks his way back into the UFC hat in hand. So we'll see if that
True.
actually ends up happening. But either which way, interesting that you had that little exchange with him. But regardless, folks, Yama Show on Twitter and Instagram as well for me. And I'm going to say this right here, right now, so that we speak it into existence. This did not work for me yesterday, but myself and Chase are reviewing the Netflix series, The Cage. We are up to episode 3. So this week, you're going to get episode 3's review. Keep an eye out for the stream. Let's make that happen, right, Chase?
Yes, we are going to make that happen this week. Hell yeah.
Exactly. So until that does happen, have a great rest of your evening, everybody. We'll catch up with you very soon. And until next time, y'all, fight on.
Change.